21-year-old Laura Termini is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Justin Jordan, for punching out the windshield of her car and impound fees.
This was your boyfriend. You had an argument while you were driving in a car. You were the driver?
Yes, ma'am.
He was the passenger. During the course of the argument, he got very angry and he hit the windshield, or he hit a mirror in your car, which broke the windshield. You want him to pay for that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that after this incident, you were no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, but about a month later, you had to go to the airport. So you were stupid enough to ask him if he would drive you to the airport and he could keep your car and use it while you were away. So he took you to the airport. According to him, he parked it where he shouldn't have parked it. It got towed, and it cost you a whole bunch of money to get the car out of the towing facility. So far, is that about right, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, that's correct.
No, look at me. Look at me,
Yes.
smarty pants. Yes, Judge, that's correct.
Yes, it is. Correct.
All right. Mr. Jordan's defense is he broke the windshield in the car instead of breaking your face, because that's how mad he was. So he hit something that couldn't really injure. Am I reading it right?
Yes, you are.
And the second part about taking the car and having it towed, he says, well, you should have come home from your vacation early and taken care of your problem, right?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jordan, did you eat spinach as a child? Regularly?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to tell me when this incident was, Mr. Jordan, in the car.
Late August.
August of 2006.
August of 2006.
All right. Where were you coming from, sir?
We were coming from our apartment, and we were taking the cat to the vet, which was neglected, and it was dying, and I was very off. And that's the bottom line.
Whose cat was it?
It was hers.
What kind of cat was it?
It was a Savannah F2.
A Savannah F2.
Yeah.
What is that?
It just has some wild cat in it, so it's like half wild, half regular cat.
How long had you had the cat?
About 6 months.
And when you say she neglected the cat, Mr. Jordan, what do you mean she neglected the cat?
It means it didn't have its proper shots. It wasn't taken care of correctly. It was not fed the right food.
Okay. So you were angry with her that you were taking the cat to the vet.
Yeah, it was dying.
And what did you do?
Well, she was degrading me, putting me down, and
Well, what did she say to you, Mr. Jordan?
a bunch of stuff like worthless and just stuff like that, you know?
She called you worthless?
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
What else did she call you?
A bunch of profound words that I can't say on TV, but,
You mean
know.
profanity, not
Profanity, yes.
So what did you do?
So I punched the windshield.
And who's responsible for that?
She is.
Because she made you angry.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you took her to the airport
Yes.
in her car, and then you took her car to work.
Yes.
Did you park it in a place where you shouldn't have parked the car?
No.
You mean the police made a mistake?
Yes.
Towing your car?
Yes.
Was it parked near a fire hydrant? Was
No, they say it was blocking a driveway.
it blocking a driveway?
Yeah.
But there was no driveway.
No, there was a driveway, but it was not blocking a driveway.
You mean somebody could have squeezed through?
Definitely. No, it wasn't blocking a driveway.
You mean they just selected your car at random because you ate your spinach as a child?
No.
So what happened when you came out and found the car no longer there, Mr.
So it
Jordan?
was gone, and I went to Anaheim Police Department, and I couldn't get it out.
Well, when you went to the Anaheim Police Department, what were you told?
She had to come get it out.
And you said that she was on vacation.
Yes, I did.
Did you contact her?
Yes, I did.
Did you ask her to send you a letter of authorization so that you could get the car?
Yes, I did.
And did she send it?
No, she didn't.
Why not?
Because he said that he didn't have the money to pay it. So if I send it, he wouldn't pay it anyway.
Is that what you told her?
No.
What did you tell her?
I told her to come get it out.
Who was supposed to pay for it?
I told her I was going to pay for it
Oh, good. So?
if she came home and got it out, but she remained in New York for another 5 days. That's
Well-
why that bill's so expensive.
No, the bill is so high, sir, because you parked in a driveway.
No, it was $160, and whatever she paid, that's her fault.
Tell me how much the impound fees were.
Together with the ticket, $435.
And the windshield?
It is $1,097.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, I haven't. I don't have the money to have it fixed.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Jordan, before I let you go on your way, sir?
No.
Wasn't this a pleasant experience? Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,530.
Michelle Compton is suing her former roommate, 21-year-old Jamie Klein, for damaging her car when she backed out of their driveway.
This is the boyfriend.
Yes.
You used to be the roommate of the defendant, is that right?
Yes.
And these two people were roommates while you and your boyfriend were together.
Yes.
Was there anybody else living in the apartment? Or just the two of you?
Just us two.
The two of you?
Yep.
Did you ever live there?
No.
Did you stay there?
Yes, I did.
How frequently?
I would stay probably the whole month, other than 2 or 3 nights. I'd go spend the night at my mom's or my friend's.
So you were there full time?
Yes.
From when to when?
From when Adam told me he got the house with Jamie, and then from the day we left.
Well, give me the dates. I don't know that. I don't have a crystal ball.
September 1st to, I think March 18th, May 18th, something like that.
So you were there all that time?
Yes.
How did you split the bills?
When moving in, I worked at Meijer. I only made about $105 a week, and I had other bills to pay. And I told Adam that I don't have any money to pay any bills, and that if he does want me to stay with him, he knows that he is paying it, and he said that's
Miss
fine.
Klein,
Yeah.
how did you split the rent?
Well, we first on the agreement was just me and Adam, and then when he said she was moving in, I even asked her. I said, well, we need to split it through. Well, I'm working at Myers right now.
She did not ask me that.
Don't speak.
She said,
Just a minute. Just answer me. You split it 2 ways? Mm-hmm. Okay. She has a counterclaim that I'll get to in a minute. Okay. It is your claim that Miss Klein damaged your car while backing out of the driveway.
Yep.
And you want her to pay for the damage to your car.
Yes,
That's
I
what
do.
your lawsuit is about, $1,700. Miss Klein says you shouldn't have blocked her car. And that was your habit. So she nicked it a little bit, and she's sorry, right? You can't hit her car.
you're right, but I went up there and asked her 3 times to move her car. She
What
didn't
date
come-
was that?
I do believe it was the 16th of
Of
April.
what?
Of March.
So right before you all went your own way.
Yep.
Why didn't you move the car?
She did not ask me to move the car. Adam asked me if I would clean the room while he's at work, so I was in the room cleaning with the music on. And she never entered the room and asked me to move my car.
And I knocked on the door
No, she did
every
not.
time and said, I need to go take kids to school. I need you to move your car. She didn't come out of the room.
Who were you going to take to school?
I have a daycare, so I had to take the kids to school.
So she didn't move the car, so you hit it.
Yep, well, I tried backing out myself, and then I hit it, and then I went upstairs, and I told her about it, and I said, I gotta go take kids to school, so when I come back, I'll give you my insurance. I come back, and she's gone. So then I go back to work. About 20 minutes later, I come back to see if she's there, and the police are there. So she left and came back, and then I gave her all my insurance and all that stuff.
So what happened with the insurance?
I called my dad and asked him. He called the insurance agency, and they said because it was on private property that they will not do anything.
Well, that's not true. That's baloney. Let me see a letter from the insurance company.
I didn't get one, Your Honor.
Well, you should have one, my dear. You can't rely on your dad. How old are you?
20.
Well, grown enough to live outside the home, you're old enough to be responsible. She has no right to hit your car. Shouldn't have blocked her.
The car was not blocked.
Well, clearly, it was more difficult to get out.
That's not
Yeah,
true. That's not right.
Well, if she hit your car, she of necessity had to hit your car
She
with
did
her
it on
car.
purpose.
Listen to me! When my mouth starts to move, yours doesn't.
Okay.
Nobody with half a brain uses their own car, which might very well be damaged if she hit her car
I have
with
pictures
your
of my
car.
car.
That's just stupid, and she's not stupid. The only thing she was stupid about is letting you live in this apartment for all those months rent-free and splitting the rent because you didn't have a job that paid you enough. You didn't have a job that paid you enough to pay rent, live at home. And if your boyfriend wanted to sleep with you, then he should have paid 2/3 and she paid 1/3. You got it? She doesn't have to pay for you the pleasure that you had to spending the night with her.
She had people spend the night also, Your Honor. It wasn't
We're not
just me
talking
over.
about spending the night. We're talking about...
She would have boys come and stay for months at a time.
Listen to me. We're not talking about spending the night. We're talking about living there. So, what you have to do is you have to call her insurance company. She's already acknowledged she hit your car. She had no right to hit your car, and our insurance company will pay for it. Easy. Now, let's get your counterclaim. Unpaid rent. You had no agreement with her to pay rent. Forget the rent, okay? Bills. You should have had an agreement. You didn't have an agreement. Damage to and return of value of property. Now I'll hear that. Go.
I have some letters from some witnesses on some of these
I don't
things.
take letters from... Listen to me. I don't take letters from witnesses. That's hearsay.
Okay. What she did one couple times, she's hid my keys. So he had to take me to work one morning because my keys just came up missing, even though I put them on the table every day. When they moved out, I cleaned my whole house top to bottom, and I couldn't find them. Moved all my furniture, they're gone. And my contact case, one morning I woke up and I stuck my contact in my eye. It had alcohol in my contact case. So I had to go and order new contacts because my contacts were ruined because they were soaking alcohol. I got the police report on that. And then also, the day that they moved out, I went to the bank, came back, took my class ring and my ring off, put it on a little jewelry box that I have in the closet, and I come back about 2 or 3 hours later and it's gone. Them two are the only ones in the house. And I asked her, she didn't know what I was talking about. Well, my rings were there when I left. I come back and they're gone.
And how many people were in the house when you were gone?
When I left, it was just her and Adam.
Well, how do you know that there weren't other
Because
people?
my
I'm
boyfriend-
speaking. How do you know that there weren't other people in the house moving them out?
Because my boyfriend was there for
So your
about
boyfriend,
half an
just a
hour.
second. So your boyfriend was there.
For just a few minutes after I left.
So your boyfriend was there.
Yeah.
Who was with your boyfriend?
Nobody.
So then, now we know of 3 people that were in the house when you weren't there, right?
Right.
But your boyfriend was there, maybe with other people. I don't know that. Didn't work out. Never works out when 2 people live together and they're boyfriends and girlfriends. You damaged her car. You have to take responsibility for that. You have full insurance on your car, and you've given her your insurance? Fine. You have to use that.
Okay.
She has acknowledged responsibility. Hitting your car, it was a stationary vehicle. There's no question of fault. Her insurance company has to pay for it. And if they don't, and you have proof that for some reason they decline coverage, well, you can come back. But before you come to court just to get even a little bit, what you have to do is you have to go through the procedure so that you don't bother the judge. Do you understand? Goodbye.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated with a broken window on her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Ms. McLeod, you and the defendant were friends. It's my understanding that you wanted to take a little day road trip together. You needed a car, so you rented a car on your credit card.
Yes.
And you were going from someplace to San Diego?
Actually, we were going from Austin, Texas to South Padre Island, and Justin had told me that he had to be on the rental car agreement because I couldn't rent the car by myself because I was under 21.
Okay, but the car was leased with your credit card?
Yeah.
Okay, and he was driving?
Yes.
What time did you rent the car?
We had gone that Friday. It was sometime in the afternoon to rent the car, and then we were going to leave for South Padre shortly after we had rented the car.
And you did?
Yep.
Was he drinking?
When the incident occurred, he had been to a few bars. He'd had a few drinks.
Well, that would be a yes.
Yes.
To make a long story short, what happened was he took the car to go from one place to another. I don't know where you were going. But according to you, you pulled the car over and fell asleep, but fell into a dead sleep coma because the police came up to the car and they tried to wake you.
It was actually parked in a parking spot.
They tried to wake you, and they couldn't wake you from this deep coma sleep. They banged on the door, they rapped with their baton, and then they feared for your safety. Since the car was locked, they busted out the window of the car in order to ensure that you were safe.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated with her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Now, the car had to be taken in to be fixed. You paid for the window, but it took time, and she was charged $500 extra on her credit card that she feels as if you're responsible for, because but for the fact that you fell asleep in the car, it wouldn't have happened. That's your case.
Yes.
Mr. Lawler has an interesting defense that we are all breathlessly waiting to hear.
When we first rented the car, I actually told her to get the rental car insurance because that way if anything did happen, we would not be liable for the damages done. And at that time, she said that she had insurance. It would be $100 cheaper. The guy rang it up with the insurance on it for the rental car. And then she said, well, no, it would be cheaper if we do it the other way. I didn't want to because I had rented a car before and know that if you get rental car insurance, it covers everything. So she insisted on putting her current insurance on there. And once we got down there, her mom, she talked to her, told her the insurance was on there. And then her mom said if anything happened to that car, that their insurance would get dropped. So their insurance didn't cover the actual damages done at all.
Can I say something? What?
No!
Oh, sorry.
I'm not finished with him.
Sorry.
So let me understand his defense. His defense is she should have taken out the insurance. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds right to you?
Well, that sounds like what he said.
That sounds right. Why did you fall asleep in the car, Mr. Lawler?
Why did I fall asleep in the car?
Just a second. Is there an echo in here? I know that you think that it's going to give you an opportunity to think of a reason.
He wasn't sleeping.
I'll
Sorry.
get back to you. Why did you fall asleep in the car?
I had a couple drinks and I passed out in the car, and it was parked in a parking spot.
There you go.
I was not driving the car though that night.
All right, Mr. Lawler, let's dissect what you just said to me.
Okay.
You think that because you talk fast, then I'm not going to be able to dissect what you said to me? Okay. So you had had a few drinks and you passed out in the car.
I pulled the car over. I didn't
Georgia,
drink. Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what you just said. Had a few drinks. Now, where did you do this drinking?
I had a couple hotel rooms.
Not in bars. You were in hotel
No,
rooms.
I was actually.
Who,
Sorry.
who were you in hotel rooms with?
Just different kids we were selling tickets for our Akon party that next day.
How many different hotel rooms had you been in drinking that night?
Just a couple actually.
Same hotel?
Just different ones.
Different hotels?
Yes.
How did you get there from one to the other?
Drove.
I drove.
The first one, yes.
Just a minute. I drove. And how'd you get to the second one?
The second one.
Yes, the
My
second
friend
one.
took me the second one in his
The
car.
second one. Your friend took you in his car, and you left your car where?
There's a condo that was parked at.
You didn't tell me you were in a condo, sir. You said you were in hotel
Well,
room.
that's what South Potter has, condos and hotels. We just go to different ones.
You told me you were in a hotel room. Do you see where we're going, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Cameras pick up everything. So do my eyes. I have very, very bad vision when I have to read something without my glasses. Far away, I can tell a smirk and an I gotcha from a mile away. What do you do for a living?
I'm a promoter for a production company.
They're usually pretty glib and pretty light on their feet. Promoters. I've been promoting myself for 3 times as long as you're alive. You owe her for the car. And you're going to pay her for the car because it was your fault.
Even though the insurance.
Your fault! Nobody laid you down, pried open your mouth, and poured alcohol down your throat. Nobody told you to fall asleep in the car. Nobody told you not to tell your friend, would you please take me back to one of these condos where I'm supposed to be staying tonight? Nobody told you any of that. You were drunk. You drove a car drunk. You passed out in the car. Your fault. You pay for it.
The remaining charges that he owes me for is $541.63.
Did you pay for your half of the rental?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $541.63. Thank you.
Stake versus Martin. Step forward, please.
41-year-old Gina Stake says she loaned her car to her 19-year-old son, Paul, who got drunk with Jamal, the 19-year-old son of Queenie Martin. Jamal wrecked the car, and Gina says Queenie should pay for the damage.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 229 on the calendar in the matter of Stake versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Yes.
Oh, no. Come up here, gentlemen. This is your son, Mrs. Stake.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Martin, this is your son.
Yes, it is.
How lovely for you both. Miss Stake, you had a rental car. You let your son drive the car. He was with his friends. My reading of these papers suggests to me that both of these idiots got drunk. He drove the car right into a pole. Right?
Correct.
You think his mom, because he's a minor, should pay for the damage to the car.
Correct.
His mom says that you know your son drinks and you shouldn't have given him the car. That's your position.
That's correct.
So that you are not responsible for the damage.
Right.
Before I ask you two ladies to sit down, I'd like just for you to give me the bills for the car, and then I'm going to deal with the young men. So the amount that you had to pay was $5,878.43.
That's the balance of it. My insurance paid $4,900.
But this is just the balance.
Correct.
Why don't you two ladies have a seat for a moment? I'll ask you to come back in a moment. Your first name is what, sir?
Paul.
Paul. And yours?
Jamal.
Now, Paul, tell me about how your mother, it came about that you asked your mother to borrow the car for the evening.
Well, it was, we all wanted to go out. He called me up. He said, what's up on the night? And I said, nothing, and got this rental car, and, you know, he wanted to go kick it. So I was like, all right, fine. We're not talking about having no money. He said, come on now, this is Jamal.
Could you keep your voice up and try to speak slowly?
Oh, okay. He was like, come on now, this is Jamal. So I was like, all right. So he wanted to get drunk. Well, we all wanted to get drunk. So he went and bought the drink. Then after a while, we went to my...
Just a minute. So you went to your mother, and you said to your mother what?
Well, actually, she already gave me the car. She already let me use the car.
That day?
Yeah. But
what did she say when she gave you the car?
She was like, be careful. And I said, okay.
That sounds right. You said, be careful?
Yes.
So right after your mother said, be careful, you and this genius over here decided to use the car and to go and get some booze and drink, right?
Right.
And where did you decide to do that?
At my sister's house.
Your sister's house? How old is your sister?
Well, she is about 19 now.
So you decided to go to your 19-year-old sister's house with Jamal over here and how many other people?
Just one more person, my best friend.
Now, were you drinking before you got to your sister's house? Is not an answer in court.
No.
No is an answer. So what happened at your sister's house?
Well, I said, let's leave, you know, because he got into an argument with my sister and everybody else in the house. So I said, you know, let's leave. But by that time we decided to leave, we was already toe up. We were already drunk.
What was the word you used first? Toe up.
Toe up.
Okay, go ahead.
And so, you know, I was too intoxicated to drive, but I still said, let's go. But I wasn't going to leave just right away after I said, let's go. I was going to stay there and wait until I got sobered up. But he was like, no, you too drunk. He tried to take the keys from me. I was struggling with him because I was going to throw them to my best friend across the street. But he already got the keys from me because I was too intoxicated to hold on to the keys. But I still remember that. And after that, he just got into the car. I don't remember how I got into the car. That's the only thing I don't remember. But we got into it.
If you don't remember how you got into the car, you must have been 3 sheets to the wind. Did you ever hear that expression? 3 sheets to the wind?
Nah. No.
No.
So...
No. Toe up, you know. Go ahead. So now you're in a car. You don't know how you got there because you were...
Toe up.
Drunk as a skunk. Right?
Yes.
What do you remember next, Paul?
All I remember is you know, I hear the car going, and next thing I know, I hear him and my best friend in the back arguing, telling him to slow down. And I did wake up and say, slow down, and then I went back.
That you remember. You don't know how you got into the car, but you remember saying, slow down.
I do remember that.
Okay. And the next thing you know, you were dancing with a pole.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the mother is an idiot as well. Excuse me?
And later today...
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gina Stake is suing Jamal Martin's mother, Queenie, because Jamal wrecked her car. Queenie says she's not responsible, claiming Jamal only drove the car because Gina's son Paul was too drunk to drive.
Jamal!
Yes.
Let's hear from you.
Okay. On September 13th, I called him and asked him...
Let's do this. You were in his sister's house drinking.
We were outside drinking.
I stand corrected. You were outside drinking.
Mm-hmm.
What were you drinking?
A bottle of Tanqueray.
Tanqueray. That's
yes.
Vodka?
Gin.
Gin. Thank you.
Water.
All right, so you all get towed up. Toe up?
Toe up.
Toe up. You all get toe up And you got into the car.
Yes.
And what happened?
While we were outside, I was talking to a friend, and I heard some yelling. When I turned around, Paul and his friend Jacoby were arguing about who was going to drive home. Now, I already knew that Paul had passed out, so I walked over to him and told him to give me the keys. There was an incident months before where he had gotten drunk, and I had drove him home before, and his mother had thanked me for it the next day.
Were you drunk
No.
then?
No, I wasn't.
Yes, but you were drunk that evening.
Yes, I was.
So you got behind the car, the wheel of the car,
Yes.
drunk,
Yes.
and hit a pole,
Yes.
and totaled the car.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
How old are you?
18.
You go to school?
Yes.
You work after school?
No, not anymore.
Why?
Well, they had to let me go because I had to rephase a class. And
You had to what?
Rephase a class. That's taking the class over.
Why?
Because it was hard and I didn't understand it, so I had to take it over.
What about you?
No, I'm working right now.
Oh, good. That's good.
Thank you.
Now I'll have the mothers back. Consider yourselves both really lucky. I assume you do. You look like two absolutely lovely women.
Thank you.
Lovely, responsible women who really shouldn't be here today because they're too big to beat, for want of a better word. So you got to beat them financially in order to teach them a lesson, both of them. Because I agree with you that this young man is partially responsible for this bill. So is he. You agree?
I agree.
He had no business getting behind the wheel of the car.
That's true.
So he's got to pay.
I also agree, however, though, that Miss Stake is also at fault.
She knew that her son had driven before drunk.
Right.
And she was hoping it would not recur. Is that right?
I agree.
That she's partially responsible. He's going to pay half of this bill.
And what portion is Miss Stake going to pay?
Oh, that half. That half, because it's going to take him a long time collecting cans or doing whatever he does to come up with $2,800, $2,900,
Okay.
which is what we're talking about. Bottom line is, he was the one who could have killed himself, the passengers in the car. Instead of hitting a pole, he could have hit
But who made
someone crossing the street with their baby carriage.
Mm-hmm. This was
Instead
3
of a
o'clock
pole.
in the morning.
Hmm?
This was 3 o'clock in the morning.
So what? Are you trying to make an excuse for him?
No, I'm just saying that no
Don't
baby,
make
no one in
any
the baby
excuse for
carriage.
him.
I am not making an excuse. I
So if
told
it wasn't
him.
a baby carriage, if it was somebody
But I
coming home
understand
from a
what you're
3
saying.
o'clock shift working that was crossing the street that he could have killed because he's an idiot.
Right, I understand that.
All right, good. So let's not make any excuses. I don't like excuses for one's children. When they do something stupid, you're supposed to say, my kid did something stupid.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, Your
Perfect.
Honor.
Then he's gonna
But
pay
I'm also
half.
saying that I feel that my son was a minor at the time. Her son was over 18. Yes, I am responsible for my child. Her son, who was working at the time, is responsible for himself.
Right.
Now, she sent me a letter saying that to split the difference. I sent her a letter back saying, because I feel that you are at fault as well as your son and the other gentleman in the car, I feel that the greatest burden should be paid by her and the 3 boys should split the remaining difference.
I see it differently. I see it big time differently, and I'm going to tell you why. But for the actions of your son, it is possible that that car would not have been driven that night. He didn't have to take the keys to the car and drive it. He could have said, I'm going back in the house and calling my mother and having her come and pick me up because I'm not going to drive this car while I'm drunk. If they want to act like fools and drive the car, that's none of my business. Then you wouldn't be standing here today.
Exactly.
No,
Also-
just a second. They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the
All
mother
right.
is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
I'm saying, had she not commended him, her undermining what I'm teaching my child by saying, yes, Jamal, you did a good thing driving my son home when he was drunk, maybe he wouldn't have drove this time. I'm not making an excuse, but I'm saying...
You are making an excuse, madam.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Like I said, this is all funny to me. There's no person in this world like me. I can overcome anything in this world at all. Anything.
And later today,
Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Miss Martin, she said to you in her letter, split the difference with me because I am prepared to accept part of the responsibility for giving my son the car. She didn't say to you, your son was driving, therefore he's got to pay the difference. She said, I'm prepared to split the difference with you. That's assuming, on her part, a certain responsibility for allowing her idiot to drive the car in the first place. Come on, get it together, madam. $2,900. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Have the back go to your right, please.
The money, that's not nothing. I'm still going to live out my dreams and become the richest person in 5 years. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this is all funny to me. They can get that money how they want to. But once they see what I become in the future, I mean, they're going to feel bad because they're not a part of it.
Well, there's somebody lying big time.
Yeah, must be, because that's what he said.
And it sure ain't me lying either.
And now the next case.
All parties on Heasley versus Jackson, step forward, please.
6-year-old chef John Hartness is suing his former best friend, 27-year-old printer Stephen Cutler, for a $3,000 loan. Stephen says John promised him the money after he won a huge settlement.
Order, all rise.
Thank you. Judge, this is number 388 on the calendar in the matter of Harkness versus Cutler. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, proceed.
Former friends.
Correct.
Fight over money.
Not correct, unfortunately.
Well, that's why we're here, sir, because this is a dispute over money.
Correct.
According to you, Mr. Harkness, you lent Mr. Cutler $3,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Cutler says it was a gift.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me, sir, how did this loan come about?
Well, in the beginning of 1995, Stephen was living in a house. He was renting a room. He couldn't live at home. His father, they kicked him out of the house, and he couldn't live at home. He had nowhere else to go, and he was also getting kicked out of this new apartment that he had gone into. And he came to me and said, you know, John, can you give me $5,000? I said, Stephen, you know, $5,000 is a lot of money. You know what I mean? I really can't give you $5,000. I said,
What kind of work do you do that you had
well,
thousands of dollars?
Unfortunately, when I was younger, I had cancer, and I had gotten a settlement for it. And so when I
How did you get a settlement for having cancer?
well, because I was misdiagnosed for not having it. And then I did have it, so it was a big, drawn-out thing. When I was 19, I got a settlement and put it away. So
And Mr. Cutler, you knew that he was getting a settlement?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And
Mr. Cutler, you knew that he was getting a settlement?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So Stephen came to me, like I said, asked me if I can give him $5,000. He didn't say lend. And I said, Stephen, I can't give you $5,000. I can let you borrow $3,000. He said, oh, come on, you can give me $5,000. You got the money. I said, Stephen, it's not about if I have the money. I can't afford it. You know, I was going to school. I put myself through college. And that was even before I got the settlement. So I've been working hard my whole life to save my own money. He said, come on, please, please, please. You know, I said, all right, listen, I can let you borrow $3,000, but you got to pay me back. He said, well, I can't pay you back right away. I said, Stephen, I know you don't have money. If it takes you a year to pay me back, just pay me, you know, in drips and drabs, whatever you can, you know. So I gave him the money. He was so happy, you know. He said, thank you. My witness was present.
Did you write him a check?
I wrote him a check. And when I went to write him the check out, he said, don't write the check out to me, write it out to my father, because I don't have enough money in my account to cover it. Well, I said, that, you know, seems pretty sensible. He was asking me for the money, so obviously he didn't have money to cover it. And he said, I need the money right away because I have to put it down on a new apartment. So I said, no problem. I wrote the check out to his father so his father could cash it. After I gave him the money, I saw him less and less over the next 6 months. Come that October, I went back to college to get my bachelor's degree. So, and then I saw Stephen less even more. So I called Stephen up. Hey, Steve, I haven't talked to you in so long. How you been? What's going on? This and that. We talked like old buddies, like nothing had ever happened. As soon as I mentioned the money. What money? I said, Stephen, come on. You know, we grew up together. What do you mean, what money? You know? He said, you said that was a gift. I said, Steve, come on. Who's going to give somebody $3,000? I was like, I haven't even given anybody in my own family $3,000, let alone a good friend. I said, I can let you, I said, I'll let you borrow it. Which said, that's not what you told me, and hung up the phone.
Okay, stop. Mr. Cutler, did you need money?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
You were working in 1995?
Yes, I was.
What kind of work were you doing?
Work and just distribution, loading trucks up.
Okay. Were you...
Work and just distribution, loading trucks up.
Okay. Were you evicted from residences at that time?
No, I wasn't.
Your Honor,
Well, tell me.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Just a second. We'll let you speak. Get back in a second. You don't deny that he transferred, I'm not going to say gave, loaned, or whatever, he transferred $3,000 to you for your benefit?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Now you tell me how that came about, sir.
We were longtime friends. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. And I knew John was getting a settlement, and he said to me, he said, Steve, he said, if I ever get a large settlement, he says, I'm going to take care of you and George Altz because you guys been my best friends for so many years. Now, that's what he said to me. He said, you guys are going to get $5,000 each and a trip to Europe, he said to me. He said, I'm going to take you to Europe on me. That's what he told me.
I'm going to take you to Europe.
To Europe, yes, on him.
Just
So we were going to go backpacking, hiking.
So did you ever do that?
No, we didn't. No, we
Okay.
didn't.
So tell me about the $3,000.
So as time went on, we were in the basement and together, and he said, Steve, he said, remember when I told you I was going to give you $5,000? I said, yes. He said, well, I can't afford to give you $5,000. He said, I spent a lot of money. He said, but I can afford to give you $3,000.
You mean, and that just came out of the blue?
Yes.
Just to hanging out in the basement?
Yeah, yes.
Did you say to him, what happened to the backpacking that we were going to do, the traveling
No,
we were going to do?
I never brought up Europe. I wasn't going to be greedy. I figured whatever, he was going to give me, he was going to give me.
So it just came out of the blue?
To be honest with you, it's been a few years. I don't remember the exact conversation, how it was brought up.
I do.
To be honest with you.
Go ahead.
It never took place in my basement.
Yes, it did.
When he was living in the house and he was getting kicked out, that's when the money transpired, actually. Mr. Alt was present.
He was present?
Step up here, sir.
Yes, he was.
Your Honor,
Step up here,
he's
sir.
lying, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's my strong suit, sir, to tell who's lying. What makes sense? Common sense. Yes.
How you doing?
Your name is... I'm
George
doing
Altz.
fine. How are you doing?
Good.
Pleased to hear that. Your name is?
George Altz. Basically, me and Steve talked about getting a loan from John. Actually, it wasn't a loan. We wanted to receive $5,000. Stephen ended up asking him. I just kind of stayed off to the side. A short time after, Steve came back and said, he's not going to loan us $5,000. He'll let us borrow $3,000.
Why were you looking to borrow money?
Because I was in debt at the time, and I had a lot of bills. So did Stephen. So Stephen said, I asked him, he would loan me $3,000. I said, I don't want a loan. If he's going to give me $3,000, I'll take the $3,000. I don't want another loan to get out of debt, to get back in debt with a friend. So I said it's not even worth it.
Why would you think that your friend, Mr. Harkness, would give you money?
Like, we grew up together. I would. You got to understand our circumstances. We've been through a lot since little kids.
I thought, Smeltzer, I know all three of these men here for well over 15 years. When John received his lawsuit, for years, well before he received it, Steve and George had been his best friend, lifelong best friends. John had bragged countless times, and specifically, that he was going to take care of them financially and give them a gift.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. Were you present, sir, when you heard any discussion about $5,000 and a trip to Europe?
Yes, I was, many times. No. He made a lot of promises to a lot of people, not just Steve and George. I mean, he bragged that he was going to take care of a lot of people in many different ways. And
just a minute, a lot of people do that.
Yes, they do.
A lot of people do that.
But you got to consider the fact when best friends of this nature, they're considered like family. They grew up all their lives. It's more like family. It's like if I came into $1 million tomorrow, I'd have no problem giving Steve $5,000.
Friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more.
And later today,
you're going to give a box of ashes to your children and say, here, hold your grandmother?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Harkness wants his former best friend, Stephen Cutler, to give him back the $3,000 he loaned him. Stephen claims the money was a gift.
What you, Mr. Cutler, is suing for is on a contract. You say that there was a contract, and your contract with him was that he was going to give you a gift, right?
Correct.
A contract requires, in the law, something called consideration. There has to be something that you give to him and something that he gives to you in order for it to be enforceable. Otherwise, it's just puffing. I'm going to take care of all of my friends. Now, there's a certain amount of common sense that suggests to me that you are having certain problems in 1995.
Your
That
Honor,
has a ring of truth to it, sir.
Your Honor, $3,000 wasn't going to make any difference in my life at that time.
You were getting kicked out of the
whatsoever.
Just a second.
Whatsoever, Your Honor.
Just a second. Then why, Mr. Cutler, would you think, sir, that after several years, because this transaction took place several years ago, that Mr. Harkness would at this point sue you for the $3,000?
Because he's a bitter man, Your Honor.
Why? Just a second. Why do you think he's a bitter man?
He's a bitter man because I was friends with him for a year after he gave me the $3,000. After that, I couldn't be friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more. And a lot of people the same way. So
don't tell me about a lot of other people. What
two
about
years
you?
later, he called me up on the phone and said, Steve, he said, the money that I gave you, I want it back. I said, John, you gave it to me as a gift. He said, doesn't matter. We don't speak no more. He says, I want the money back. I said, well, you're not going to receive the money. You gave it to me as a gift. And he said, well, I'll see you in court. And I said, I'll see you in court then.
Just a second. I'm going to resolve this in a minute. Did he make the check payable to your father?
Yes, he did. He told me, Your Honor, the reason why he made it out to my father was he told me, he goes, I don't want you spending it all in one place. He goes, I feel if your father is involved with it, he goes, your father will look out for the money better than you will. And that's why he wrote my check to my father.
Oh, no. You see, a very important thing for you to remember, sir, is that common sense is what's supposed to prevail in a court. If he were giving you money outright, he would have given you the check made out to you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you didn't need the money immediately, you could have opened up a bank account, put that check in the bank account, and waited for the check to clear. The fact that he made the check out to your father suggests to me that you needed the money immediately.
Yes.
And thank you for agreeing with me.
Sorry.
I also think, Mr. Cutler, that of all of his friends, I haven't heard of anybody else that just took money from him. Right? You haven't told me about anybody else that just took money.
I'm not the only one here, Your Honor. I mean,
there were other people.
There were other people.
No, it wasn't.
I could have brought many witnesses here.
Name one.
Just a second.
Why'd you bring him?
John, hey!
Sorry.
Sit down now. Mr. Harkness, I am satisfied based upon primarily the one tangible thing that we know, which is that you both agree on, that you made the check payable to his father, and that suggests to me that there was an immediate need that he had for the funds,
Yes,
which
Your Honor.
supports your story that he needed the funds immediately for a new apartment, which is totally different from what he's saying is that you were in the basement of your building making out a check and you said, I hear I'm going to give you some money.
No, never happened.
I know you say it never happened. So I am giving you a judgment, sir, in the amount of $3,000, which is the amount of the loan. Thank you,
Your
that's
Honor.
all.
All right, excuse you. May step out. That's right. Out this way, gentlemen.
This way.
Out the back, go to your right.
A freak in disguise, bro.
See, that's all he can say.
A freak in disguise.
That's all he
Look
can
at you.
say.
Rip off that suit and
That's all
that
he can
white
say.
trash.
White chest with a
Mama's a freak,
with
his
a
dad's a
bachelor's
freak,
degree.
his whole family's
Bachelor's degree.
freak.
Ask him what degree he has. Ask him how many degrees he has. Nothing. I'm white trash.
And now the next case.
Parties on Sheindlin versus Sheindlin. Step forward, please.
42-year-old Suzanne Gendron wants her former sister-in-law, Teresa Gendron, to return the ashes of her mother.
Very strange case. And very old. Your mother died 21 years ago, according to your complaint.
Correct.
Step forward, please.
35-year-old Mary Sauter met 29-year-old Brian Visner on a softball team. She loaned him money, and when they split, she says he kept using her credit cards.
Order. All rise.
It's number 48 on the calendar, Judge, in the matter of Sauter versus Visner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Ms. Sauter, according to your papers, you met the defendant in April of
Correct.
1995.
95.
Began dating in May of the same year.
Correct.
And by the middle or the end of the summer, you had loaned him about $1,500.
Thereabouts. Probably more than that, but that's what I'm alleging at this point.
Why?
Well, I met Brian, and we really had a lot of mutual interest together in regards to softball and such. And
You met him at a softball game, according to your papers.
yeah, we played co-rec softball together. Co-rec, men, women. Okay, half-half. All right. And during Memorial Weekend, in fact, we even went down to Chicago for the weekend and had a great time. Came back, and Brian really, truly, I knew was going through a lot of hard times. He had gone through several jobs, different changes in jobs. Brian has 2 children, great boys, and he was in arrears in regards to child support and is trying to get his feet back on the ground. And I truly believed at that point he was trying hard to get his feet back on the ground in regards to a new job.
But why did you give him money?
Because with his initiative, and I saw his motivation in regards to his job, that possibly, I mean, he promised to pay it back.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was, when I originally met her, I was working for my father in construction. And
That sounds as if it could be a long-term proposition. What happened?
well, we got slow, so I went on to started a maintenance company to do some work, and times were hard, but I never asked for anything.
You took?
No, I never asked for anything
No,
from
I
her.
didn't say asked. I
She
said, but you
offered-
took.
She offered, I took.
Okay. Tell me what you gave him.
Originally, he was asking for little amounts of money, you know, here or there. Hey, 20 bucks, 40 bucks, I'll get it back to the end of the week. Not a problem. I don't even have a recollection of that.
Okay.
Okay. The first time really that he asked for a significant amount of money was the end of June. And in fact, I wrote a check out to him, which I have, for $350.
What was that for?
He needed money to pay his July rent in bills.
Is that right, sir?
No.
What do you mean no? It's made out to you.
She gave me cash. She wrote out
She
a
didn't
check, I
get-
cashed it, and I didn't use it for, I never said anything about rent or anything like that.
Well, what'd you use it for?
Just going out, doing stuff.
What else?
I mean, he didn't even have money to go to work. Okay, so I didn't want that to happen. Okay, because for him, for his kids, you know, my good heart that I wanted
And
to
you
help
thought
him.
you had a future together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. You know, and things were going good.
Okay.
You know, that I thought, that I knew.
Your Honor.
And so at that point, I extended out an Amico credit card to him. And I said, here, Brian, now listen, anything that you use, it's your responsibility. Okay? We're going to get through the tough times, but here's the card. I'm keeping track, you keep track, and let's go with it.
Mm-hmm.
He went with it. He went all out on it.
You mean you had the Amico company put a credit card in his name?
He was an authorized signer on my account.
Oh, okay.
Which ended real quick.
Not quick enough according
Correct.
to your complaint.
Correct.
How much did he charge up on your credit card?
$700 on the credit card.
Yeah, okay. According to your complaint, there came a time when you told him, hey, Brian, give me back the credit card.
Right.
I'm ripping it up.
Correct.
Cutting it in half. You're not entitled
Yes.
to it anymore. Don't use it anymore.
Right.
When was that?
I threw an extravagant birthday party for him. Just a gala event. Blackjack tables, kegs of beer, decorations, food, okay? We were having a good time, you know, people were having a great time.
So what
All of a sudden, I look, he's gone. He left. He left his own party. Left his van there, okay? And went with a bunch of his friends and took off.
Okay,
Didn't
so you
hear
got-
from him.
So you got angry, and that's when the romance was over.
Correct. That was it. That was the final straw.
All right. When did you get your credit card back?
The next day, I called Amico, and I said, no more. All right? I called him, and I said, Brian, no more. And
But did he continue to charge on your credit card after that?
he continued to charge after I found that Amico received a phone call, and he continued authorized service on my card after he got my Social Security number.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Did you continue to use the card after she told you not to?
I went up to the pump to use it, and it was done. And I couldn't
Sir.
use it anymore, and then I threw it away.
Listen.
There was never a call
Hey,
from... Yes.
I asked you a simple question. After she told you told you not to use the card anymore, which was after your birthday party in July of '95?
Correct.
You continued to use the card.
From what I recollect is that it was not right after my birthday. It was, it had to be 3 weeks to a month later.
Had you been dating each other during that 3 or 4 week period?
She had got me into a golf tournament.
After your birthday?
After my birthday.
Can I see the amicable bills, please?
Yes. They start from 7/21 on.
And my birthday's 7/18.
Sir, you used this card until the end of December.
That's when I got a call that it was done. That's when she called me to tell me it was done. It wasn't in July
even
or
according
August.
to you, sir, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after your birthday party in July. That would bring us up into August. You used her card big time. September, October, November, December. That's outrageous. Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Well, it was wrong.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Friday night softball games, I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200-300 in there, in an envelope.
And later
Well,
today,
now you'll know better. You don't move in with somebody unless you love them, unless you're prepared to have aggravation.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. After Mary Sauter met Brian Visner playing softball, he borrowed money and used her credit card. They split. Now she wants the money back.
Why do you think you don't owe her this money? So far, we're up to $1,050.
Why don't I think I owe her the money? It's because she had done things through this whole relationship. The trip to Chicago was just I came home from work on a Saturday, and she called that Saturday afternoon and said, "You want to go to Chicago? I'm buying. Let's go have some fun." I said, "Well,
Fine. Wait, I didn't even talk about Chicago. I'm talking about the $350 she gave you for rent.
I have no clue what that was for. I mean, I don't think it was for rent. I really don't.
I don't care if you bought $350 worth of bubble gum with it. The idea is she gave you the money. What you did with it is your business. I'm
Right.
sure she didn't give you this check because you said, "I want to buy bubble gum." She gave you this check because she said you were in dire straits for money.
I was really never in dire straits for money. I was always working. I always had money.
All right. I'm up to $1,050, madam.
Yes.
Do you have any other checks that you say
Yes,
that
I
you can
did.
prove? Debt?
Yes. This is the other check that I have this is for cash. And he went to the bank with me because he didn't have a bank account, and I got straight cash for him.
Do you remember that, sir?
No. No, I don't.
Remember what this was for?
Cash.
But what did he need the money for in June? June 8th?
Probably like what he did on the amicable cards, cigarettes and whatever else he had. I mean, if he says he's having money on his own, I have no idea. He went up to the, I like to gamble too, but he's out to Mystic Lake, a gambling facility, when he doesn't even have money. He's probably using my money to gamble with.
Well, the memo on this, sir, is clearly, it says for you for cash.
I make all notes on
I'm
my
sure
check.
it does. She probably wrote it out, cashed it, got the cash, and put that on there. That's fine. I don't remember receiving a check for that or
You
any
didn't get a
cash
check
for
for
that.
it, cash. You mean to tell me you have no memory of getting cash from her?
Not for that. No.
For what?
For any. I mean, I do remember getting cash from her at other times.
Like how much?
Friday night softball games. I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200-300 in there, in an envelope. I never asked for it, and then she'd put her name on there. Yes, this is from me. So I'd take it. I'd spend it. I don't say what I did was right. It was wrong. But
I've been a judge for a long time. What always strikes me as being interesting, for want of a better word, is that there are usually more women standing in your place and usually more men standing in his place than there are vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
When are women going to wise up?
I have.
When are women going to wise up? You don't know somebody 4 weeks and then give them money.
I have. I mean, definitely, I was like, I've been guilty of it for all my whole life. I was a good heart.
Your
That
Honor.
was it, and I learned.
You're a star.
Well, believe
Your
me, I have
Honor.
a fiance now that gives me money, and we have everything together.
Your Honor,
What?
I'm not the first person that she's done this to. There's 3 or 4 other guys before me that she's done the same thing
You
for.
mean been very generous with?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this
Very
question.
generous.
So when did you find that out?
After I started seeing Mary.
In what? You mean in May?
Well, maybe a few weeks after that.
Few weeks
after the trip,
All right.
after the trip to Chicago.
Talking. Few weeks after that, I want you to tell me how it came about that you found out that she had been generous with men friends before.
Other guys on the softball team that we played on.
And I usually don't accept hearsay, but the conversation was you going out with Mary and she's pretty generous with her money?
The conversation was, what did you do last week? And I said, Mary took me to Chicago. Well, she
Yeah.
likes to do that for the guys that she's seeing. She likes to spend money on them and treat them nice.
How lovely.
Your Honor?
Don't say anything else.
Okay.
Don't say anything else with the exception of learning the words, like almost like a mantra. I'm sorry I don't lend money to people that I know for such a short time.
Guilty.
Right. Guilty. Guilty. You owe her $1,500. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She said a lot of things. I took advantage of her, and I don't disagree with that. That's what Mary does for a living. She sues people.
And now the next case.
Parties on McGinn versus Miller. Step forward, please.
Sandra Trevino used to live with Foster Reeder. Now she's suing Foster's son, Dustin, for bills he ran up on her Sears credit card.
Order. All rise. All rise, please. Quiet in the courtroom.
Judge, this is number 132 on the calendar in the matter of Trevino versus Reeder. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Trevino. Mr. Reeder.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Reeder Sr. Step up here. Ms. Trevino, according to your complaint, you and Mr. Reeder Sr. were living together, correct?
No.
He wasn't living with you?
He stayed with me for a month.
Stayed with you. I paid the rent.
Just a second. He was staying with you. He stayed with you for a month. This is his son.
Yes, ma'am.
He also stayed with you.
Yes, ma'am.
And while they were staying with you, you let Junior use your Sears credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Well, we were good friends, and he was just starting a job, and there was stuff that he needed, like tool chests and stuff, and he promised to pay me back when he started working and started getting an income, and I trusted him. He's a nice kid. But now that Senior and I are no longer seeing each other, he doesn't want to pay me.
Why didn't you ask your father for money?
Because I like Sears tools.
Because what?
I like the tools that Sears put out.
So?
She had a Sears charge card.
Go ahead, sir. Maybe you can answer for him.
Actually, what happened, Your Honor, when we got together, we were there a lot longer than any 2 months.
Well, first it was a month. Now you say it was longer than 2 months.
It was a lot longer. The relationship went on for about a year and a half. Mrs. Trevino's credit card was not being able to be used at the time, and I paid it up, brought it current. The Sears credit card, I paid up the Sears credit card where it could be used. I paid up her Visa credit card, which they never let her use it. Okay, at that time, my son could have asked me for the money, but I didn't even know they were going out and buying the tools. She took him to Sears and started on her own while we were still together. And as we were living together for quite some time, over a month, things went on between them. He could have gotten the money from me if he'd have asked me for it.
Well, that's what I want to know. Why didn't you ask your father to borrow the money for your tools rather than asking Miss Trevino?
Because she had a charge card for there.
But he had the money.
I never came up to ask him for that, Your Honor.
All right, so now you used the credit card. How much did you charge on her credit card?
About $1,100, Your Honor, or so.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay back?
110845.
You have proof of that for me?
Your Honor, what I have is my check register.
And what does it say in it?
That I've made payments. I have 9 checks totaling the amount of $508.45.
Is that made directly to Sears?
Sears and Mrs. Trevino.
Let me see it. Do you deny that he gave you these checks, madam? He's got them in his book.
He gave me checks for the rent when he was living there.
Some of this, how much rent?
He was paying $200 a month.
There are charges here for $32.45, $38, $75, $63.
For what?
I don't know. It says to Sandra Trevino. Let me see your Sears bill, please. Is she charging you rent?
I paid her rent on my own will, and I never wrote her a check for rent. I just given her cash.
What do you mean you gave it of your own will, sir?
I was told I didn't have to pay rent, but I paid her anyway.
That's not true.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I was the one paying the rent at the time.
That's not true.
Out of my own money. That's why he didn't have to pay rent.
He said he was giving her cash.
He did give her money, but like I said, it was because he wanted to.
So you say, sir, that you repaid her $508 by check, and this is for the tools that you bought on the Sears card. Is that right?
Yes.
But you also say you paid her cash.
Yes.
Twice.
Yes.
How are you going to prove that to me?
What? Ma'am, I have no... we were friends at the time. I didn't think I needed a receipt for that.
Well, but you paid most of the money by check. Why would you pay $600 of it in cash?
Well, because I would go cash my check, and I'd just give her the cash instead of the check.
Why did you give her some checks? All of them were under $100. And then what you opted to give her in cash, you gave her in two $300 payments. That doesn't sound logical to me, sir.
Well, at the time, I had the cash on me. And the only reason why I didn't get a receipt was because I was living with her. She was seeing my father.
Did he ever give you cash?
No, ma'am.
He did not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, return this to him. Yes.
He did give her cash, Your Honor.
No.
And I've given her a lot of cash even since then.
No, I believe...
A couple of times I didn't ask for receipts. Then at the very last, she started writing me receipts. I didn't bring them with me, but she did write me some receipts.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She stole her car out of a shopping center before Christmas, and I got blamed for the car.
This is getting fascinating.
And later today...
I did see a cat, and I saw them, running after the cat, and I did see a cat.
I'm not sure I believe that you saw a cat.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Trevino says 26-year-old tow truck operator Dustin Reeder used her credit card and didn't repay her. Dustin says he paid her back in cash.
Miss Trevino, why are you suing him now?
Because they were going through some bad times, and he didn't have any money. He went to jail for a couple months. The kids were trying to run the business, and they weren't making ends meet. And I was actually helping him keep the business going while he was. And
What kind of business?
Towing business.
Automobile towing?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you incarcerated for a period of time, sir?
Yes, I was.
For how long?
I was actually in jail for 45 days.
For what?
Because she had stole her car, and I got blamed for it.
You're lying, sir.
That's right. She stole her car out of a shopping center before Christmas, and I got blamed for the car, and I didn't involve her in it. I took the heat because my lawyer advised me to take the heat, so I took it.
Explain. No, this is getting fascinating. This is much...
Hey, it's the truth. You can check it out with the courts.
Well, can't check it out with the courts. If you pled guilty, sir, and served 45 days, then you pled guilty to something. Explain to me, she stole a car...
That's right.
...out of a parking lot.
That's right.
How did you get involved with it?
Well, when I first met Mrs. Trevino...
You tried selling it to her.
She didn't have a car. She had problems with her car. I gave her the money to go out and put a down payment on a new car. When we started squabbling, she couldn't make the payments. So then she decided, it was insured, she decided that she would take it and collect the insurance off of it, which she did.
You're a pathological liar.
What do you, just a second.
The car,
Pathological.
you didn't collect insurance?
Miss Trevino, go ahead.
The car,
So she reported the car stolen.
that's right.
Ah, it's coming together. She reported the car stolen. And then the plan was for her to go out and sell the car once she got the insurance money for it. Is that right? Am I right?
You're close.
Well, tell me where I'm off. Tell me where I'm off.
Anyway, as it turned out, I got caught with the car
How did you get caught with the car?
because somebody did some work on it, brought it back,
You mean did some work on it to sort of
changed the VIN
change
numbers.
the VIN numbers?
Changed the VIN numbers. Brought it back. I got caught with it. Okay? And like I said, at that time, I never brought it up. I never one time said anything about it to the law or anything. I just went to jail for it.
Well, you knew that there
And
was you
believe
knew
me,
the
believe me, I wish
scenario,
I
so you
hadn't.
weren't blameless, sir, right?
I was partly to blame because I got caught with it.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I drive a tow truck.
Your father's tow truck?
Yes.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. These tools that you bought from Sears, what did you need them for?
I like to work on cars.
Sounds to me, with the exception of this young man, these people all deserve each other. Well, I'm going to give you credit, sir, for the following. I believe that you gave her checks towards the Sears bill of $1,100 in the amount of $500, leaving a total of $600 left. Now, I want you to look in my eyes and tell me whether you gave her an additional $600 in cash.
Yes, ma'am, I did. In 2 installments.
Hmm?
I have given her $600 in cash for the tool bill.
For the tools.
Yes. On the
You gave her
surcharge.
extra money for rent
Yes, I was paying her $200 a month for rent.
in addition to the tools. Is that right?
Yes, every month I stayed there, I gave her $200 a month.
Ms. Trevino, I believe him. This young man, I believe. I don't know if I believe either of you two people, but I believe him that he paid you. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Pathological liars. They're known liars. That's all they do is lie.
And now the next case.
Parties on Brown versus Silberg. Step forward.
8-year-old Christina Harmon is suing her father, William Toller, for an unpaid loan. William claims Christina broke the terms of their agreement.
Miss Harmon, this is your father?
Yes.
According to what I read in the complaint, you made a loan to him.
Yes, I did.
Your father does not deny that you made a loan to him. He says, however, that as a condition of his repaying the loan, you agreed to stay in school and stay off of drugs. And he says that you didn't. So he's not repaying the loan unless he can put it in some sort of an account where you can't touch it until you're 21. There's a little bit of background here. Background, according to you, is that you didn't have much of a relationship with your dad for most of your growing up. You lived with your mother. Your father, at some point, was incarcerated for an extended period of time. He got out of jail. You developed a relationship with him, moved in with him for a short period of time. You got a settlement of some sort.
Yes.
How much was the settlement?
It was for $8,960 or
$9,000.
Yes.
And it was at that time that he asked you for the loan.
Yes.
When was that, Miss Harmon?
He asked me for it November 28th of 2005.
Were you living in the house with him at
Yes,
that
I
time?
was.
What did he say he wanted the money for?
He wanted $2,350 to buy a new car and $600 to go see my stepmother's oldest daughter in Medford, Oregon.
That's not true. I never borrowed $600 for a trip from her.
Well, how much did you borrow in total from her?
$2,150. The vehicle was actually, so Christina had a car. She had the money to do driver safety. We'd already set it up
Just
with
a second,
school.
Mr. Tolan. How much did you take out of your account and give to him?
I took out $2,900 out of my account. I wrote a check to my bank.
Let me see.
It's this one right here.
It says $2,900, sir.
That's not what she gave me. She gave me $2,100, and my wife can
In a
attest to
check
that.
or cash?
Cash.
Okay. let's say I believe you.
Okay.
Did he also give you a car?
No, he was going to give me the car, but then he decided not to, and he was going to sell it to my cousin once he got his taxes back.
Just a second. Did you ever have possession of that car?
No, I did not.
And title in your name?
No, I did not.
Okay.
That's not true, Your Honor.
She had title in her name?
She didn't have title in her name
Then
because
she didn't get
she
didn't
had
have
the
truck.
keys to the vehicle. They were
I don't
given
care
to
if
her
she
when
had,
she got it.
Listen to me. I don't care if
Okay.
she had keys to the vehicle. It's not her car. Where's the car now?
The car's in Salem right now
With whom?
with a friend of mine.
That's not her car.
No, it's not now because she didn't hold up her part of the bargain.
Listen to me. When you asked your daughter for money, what were the conditions?
The conditions were that she stay in school.
No,
and not
you're
do
asking
drugs.
for money. You're the borrower. You don't set the conditions of the return of the money, Mr. Tolan. I don't think you understand how stupid your defense is. You say to your daughter, I want money. Let's say $2,100. Let's say $2,100. I'm not there yet, but let's just say $2,100. And you say, I'd like to borrow $2,100 because I want money to buy a car. And I will pay you back if you stay in school and if you don't do drugs. If I were your daughter, I'd say, take a walk. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I'm doing you a favor by loaning you $2,100 and you're going to set the conditions on repaying me? That sounds stupid. Doesn't that sound stupid to you? Does it sound stupid to you?
It sounds very stupid to me if that was the story, but she came to me asking for the vehicle, and I told her I would give her the vehicle on conditions because I was trying to teach her to be responsible.
I'm not talking about the vehicle. I'm talking about the $2,100 for your car.
I understand that. I'm talking about my daughter's life. I'm passionate about drug and
Listen,
alcohol
I'm
use,
passionate about
and
the
I'm
truth.
not going to let her die.
Listen to me.
So you'd give her $2,100 to go kill herself with?
Mr. Tolan, listen to me. I've had 5 children that I raised.
I understand that.
And I guarantee you, sir, I have not been in prison. And I guarantee you that I've been in my children's lives from the time that they took a breath. Okay? So I can guarantee you that I'm as passionate about my children's welfare as you.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is it doesn't make sense for you to say to anyone, including your daughter, can I borrow some money, but I'm only going to pay you back if you do this. If you get a job, if you stay in school, if you break up with this boy, if you stop hanging out with this person. Otherwise, I'm not going to borrow the money from you.
Okay, let's put it this way.
No, don't. I don't answer your questions.
Okay.
I don't answer your questions. What you're saying to me sounds stupid. And if it sounds stupid, it's not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,900, because that's what you took. That's it.
47-year-old contractor Kenneth Stitsworth says that his old friend Mark Collins slugged him. Kenneth is suing Mark for medical bills.
How come you both look so nice and normal now? Hard to believe that you could go out and both get blitzed on an evening, which is what happened here, right? Went from one place to another, had a little drinking, old friends, been friends for a long time, right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then, according to you, sir, he assaulted you. And you had medical bills.
That's
How long
correct.
have you known him?
Mark and I have been friends for roughly about 21 years, since about 1967, 68.
Yeah.
Good friends.
So what happened this night?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say, Judge, that there are 3 reasons why I'm here. The first one is obvious, that I'm here to retrieve the costs for the emergency room, number 1. Number 2, in completing this, I look forward to phone calls being stopped at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning discussing this issue. And number 3, I also want to make certain that there won't be any more phone calls to my partners in Northern California at my corporation up there, where Mark is called up drinking and asking for a position with the company. So I want to make certain that those 3 items are taken care of.
All right. So let me dispel any misconception for you, sir. I cannot give you a restraining order with regard to items 2 and 3.
Understood. And pardon me. I'm in hopes that after today that won't be necessary. I just want to bring that up as an issue today so that we can get that at least recognized. So that's my intent.
Recognizing it is, sir, it's like window shopping. I don't like to window shop because if I can't go in and buy something, I don't like to look at it.
Very well.
Similarly, sir, if I can't do anything about it, I'm not going to beat my gums when he's going to say, she doesn't have the power to restrain me from calling his corporate office.
I understand that.
All
That's
right.
not an issue to me.
So,
here
Mr.
today.
Collins, if you've been calling his corporate office, just some good advice from somebody who's been around the block a little bit. The wise decision would be to cease and desist. Enough said?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As soon as I say that, he wheeled around, sucker punched me, I say, and I could feel a lot of wetness on my face, and I looked and there was blood everywhere, and I just said, Mark, what have you done? Man,
Okay.
What have you done?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 47-year-old contractor Kenneth Stitsworth says that his old friend Mark Collins slugged him. Kenneth is suing Mark for medical bills.
Tell me about this evening, Mr. Stitsworth. Come on, let's
Okay,
go.
the evening started out, Mark had called my home about 2 or 3 days prior to this evening and had asked to come up. I'm in the process of starting some new projects and didn't really have the time to go out and party, although it was the weekend when he was calling.
Okay, let me tell you this. According to these papers, because we were moving along, you
All right.
thought you were going to discuss business.
I can cut to the chase.
Cut to the chase.
All
That's
right.
what we want to get.
The situation is Mark did show up to my home, and we both decided to go out and meet two lady friends of mine at a restaurant that's there in the area where I live. We did do that. We went in, we had some tacos, we had a few drinks. Mark and I were drinking shooters of tequila and beer. I didn't feel like we were going overboard, but a
You
little
never
bit
do
later
when you're
on,
doing shooters of tequila and
Yeah.
beer.
Hey,
After the first two shooters, you don't know whether you're coming
never
or going.
know.
Yeah, you never. One never
But
knows.
anyway, we got ready to leave. I decided it was about time to leave. We were going to go to another place to shoot pool, which we like to do. We walked outside. The two gals that I was with Mark, they both had their cars. I was going to go with one of them. They suggested I go with Mark because he had been drinking. And I said, okay, I'll go with Mark. With that, his car was parked on a real steep incline down in the neighborhood there. It was a dark street. I was following behind him, talking, going along, and he got just about 3 feet from the truck. And I said, Mark, you probably better let me drive. Why don't you let me drive? And with that, no sooner did I say that, he wheeled around, sucker punched me, I say, and I fell backwards, gravity pull, hit the top of my head. I didn't go out, but I got up right away, and I could feel a lot of wetness on my face, and I looked and there was blood everywhere, and I just said, Mark, what have you done, man?
Okay.
What have you done?
You ended up in the emergency room that night. What was your emergency room bill?
The emergency room bill was 700 and some change, about 720 something, 727. I reluctantly went to the emergency room because I don't like hospitals, but nevertheless,
You have
these
a
people
bill?
advised me to do it.
You have a
Yes,
bill?
ma'am, I do.
Okay, I'd like to have it. All right, Mr. Collins, you're out in the parking lot.
We're in the alley proceeding towards my car.
Let's start at that point.
Okay, I'd come up to see Ken to do business the other way around instead of what he said. Okay.
You're in the
okay,
alley.
I'm in the alley. He starts his rhetoric about, no, I can't get you. I can't help you out now. I just spent $100 on the tab, and now he wants to go to the next bar. And I'm thinking, I don't have any more money. I was the one paying all the tab. I'm up here trying to do business with this guy. And I've known him for years and what a con artist he is. And I'm fed up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's not good judgment. You're trying to do business with this guy as a con
Well,
artist.
this was like a last test, you know.
All right, so you were testing.
So I get fed up. I'm walking away. He's behind me. He comes up and he starts saying, I'm going to kick your butt. And, you know, and he pulls my arm back. And I go like that. And then I walk a few more steps. And he comes up and says, change the subject. He goes, you better let me drive. And he grabs for my keys.
No. What's this? He grabbed your keys.
Well,
he said, you better let me
he grabbed
drive.
out my hand again.
What?
And he said he was going to kick my, you know what, butt. And I went, I don't think so. And I just went like that.
And you punched him.
And I punched him before he was going to punch me.
And you punched him.
Yeah.
Ah, good. $727.60. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Judge.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
Your Honor, this is case number 374 on the calendar in the matter of Fuller versus Lewanig. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may have a seat.
Miss Fuller, you're suing the defendant because you allege that he owes you money for the year that his daughter lived with you.
That's correct.
Now, this was sort of an interesting story. You took her into your home without his permission. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell me how that came about?
She wanted to finish her last year of high school down here to play basketball.
Where is down here?
She was at Paramount at the time, but I live in Dominguez District. She ran away before her father moved to Victorville with her friend. Her father went over there, caused a big scene, had the police involved.
Because his daughter ran away?
Yes. Rashika called her mother in Arkansas and had...
Sir, you and your daughter's mother are divorced, is that right?
We were divorced, ma'am. That's right.
And your daughter was living with you?
She let me keep her for the meantime. She wants to go down.
She was, in fact, at the time that we're talking about, living with you when she
living
ran
with
away.
me. Yes, ma'am.
Which is the daughter? That's you.
Rashika.
Now, how did you get involved with her?
Through basketball. I met Rashika when she was playing basketball with my daughter. I was a team mother for Paramount's basketball team. They didn't have a lot of support, and I went to all the girls' games. I took the...
So that's how you got involved with her?
Yes.
So now we're up to a point where she ran away from her father's house.
Yes.
And somehow contacted you.
Yes.
And you said you can come and live with me.
I talked to her mother in Arkansas.
You didn't speak to her father?
No.
You called her mother?
Rashika called her mother.
Rashika called her mother, with whom she wasn't living at the time?
No.
And her mother gave you permission for her to live in your
Yes,
house?
I have the notarized. She came the next day. I have the authorization.
Okay. And she signed papers, her mother signed papers for her to live in your house?
Yes, and then we went to court, and the court gave me temporary guardianship.
Okay. With her mother's permission?
Yes.
But according to your papers, not with her father's permission?
No.
Father was not happy about this. Is that right, sir?
That's true. He said he didn't know where she was.
So how long did she stay with you?
From June the 17th, 1996 until June the 22nd, 1997.
Now, according to your papers, she played you like a violin.
Yes, she did.
You didn't know that at the time.
No. I looked at that beautiful face, Your Honor, and I believed everything she told me.
Now, you believed everything, all the bad things she told you about her father, that he didn't understand her, that he was verbally abusive to her. You believed all that?
When I first met Rashika, I could see that she was unhappy. She was crying a lot. I could tell she was an unhappy child.
So, Miss Fuller, my question to you is, you interfered with a family situation. Because when she finally left your home,
yes,
she went back to her father, right?
Yes. After she graduated from high school, she went to college.
But she went back to her father.
Yes, he gave her a car and offered her money, and she left.
Whatever, she went back to her father.
Yes.
So this was a teenager in rebellion. She left her mother's house, right, to go to live with her father? Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am. That's true.
How long have you been divorced from her mother?
Oh, about 15 years.
And how long had she lived with her mother?
14.
And how many years did she live with you?
About a year and a half until she met Miss Fuller.
Yes.
Rashika's mom told me that she was financially unable to care for Rashika and her sister Renisha. That's when she sent them out here. This is what her mom said.
Doesn't sound right to me. You don't send two children to their father after they've been living with you for 15 years or for 14 years because you're financially unable to take care of them.
She said she had had an accident and was hurt and wasn't able to take care
Well,
of them.
when you met her, when she came to sign the guardianship papers,
yes,
did she appear to be injured to you?
Maybe.
What does maybe mean?
She seemed to, like she had a head injury, maybe.
She didn't have a head injury that prevented her from signing these guardianship papers.
No.
Or from understanding that she was turning over legal custody to you of her daughter.
She told me she was unable to care for her. Her father was abusive.
All right. I assume you have at least one teenage daughter?
Yes.
Just so you know that teenage daughters can be difficult sometimes? Or yours aren't difficult?
My youngest one wasn't.
And what about the older one?
Well, they did good. All my children graduated from high school.
I didn't
never
ask-
really had any problems with them.
Well, then you should be written up in Guinness Book of Records because
I
most
was
women,
very lucky.
most mothers who have teenage daughters know that they're a little difficult at times.
I was very lucky.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
At the time, I felt he didn't understand, but now that I see it, I'm, in college, and I see my sister going through getting disciplined, I understand she needs it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Doris Fuller wants Ray Lewanik to pay her for taking care of his daughter, Roshika. Ray says she took his daughter without his permission.
Now, I want to know why you think that this man ought to pay you anything.
Well, for child support, when the courts gave me temporary custody of Roshika, the judge sent us, Ray and Roshika and I, to go talk. We went to the IHOP in Compton. He offered me $400 a month child support. I said that was fine. Roshika and her dad left. When she came back, I asked her for the check. She was hesitant to give it to me.
What month was this?
In May.
That was a month before she left.
Yes.
Well, why are you suing for $4,200 if I believe you that you say he agreed to pay you $400 a month and then his daughter went back to him within a month? Why should I give you $4,200?
I had her for a year.
Right.
And when she came to play basketball,
I'm not interested in anything else. What I'm really concerned about is you took this child without her father's permission. You discussed the matter with her mother, not her father. Her mother gave you guardianship. You made no attempt, according to what you've told me, to get some child support from her mother, who was the one.
$75.
She sent you $75. You're suing him for almost $5,000. She was the one who gave you permission to take her daughter without his consent. He didn't even know where she was. Is that right, sir?
That's very true, ma'am.
Were you collecting welfare for her?
No.
Who was covering her medical insurance?
Her father paid her medical insurance. The one time I took her to the doctor, they gave me a $5 payment and I paid that.
So she wasn't on anybody's welfare budget?
No.
Okay, sir. How much money did you give her in total to take care of your daughter after you knew where she was?
Well, I tried to negotiate with her because I saw my daughter in good, condition.
When was that? What month was that?
In May, right after the court hearing, we went to IHOP and I offered her, look, I can only give you $200 a month in front of her because as far as I know, she was with her mom.
You mean before that you thought she had been with her mother?
Uh-huh.
And then you went to court.
I went to court.
This was in May of '97.
Yes, ma'am, May of '97.
And in May of '97, you went to IHOP and had this discussion about support. And how much money did you give her in May?
I didn't give her anything. I offered her $200. And
Right.
I thought she agreed, so I went to the bank with her, gave her the $200.
Did you give?
I explained it to her. I can't afford $400 because I just moved out. I got 2 young kids now of my own from my new marriage. And she's not in my budget because I know she's gone.
Okay.
Gone back to her mom.
Step up here. You're the daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you go back to your father's house?
After we had in court, we all went out to breakfast and we cried. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You were ready to go home?
Yeah.
Hmm?
I had seen my little sister and my little brother, and my father, we talked things out, and I wanted a relationship with him again.
You think that part of the problems that you were having with your dad that caused you to leave were at least in part your fault?
When I was with my mom, I never got disciplined. So when he disciplined me, I rebelled.
When you say he disciplined you?
Grounded me.
Grounded you?
Took my car away.
And your mom never did those things?
No.
That wasn't wrong of him to do, right?
No. Well, at the time, I felt...
You thought it was?
He was just all against me, and he didn't understand, you know, and... But now that I see it, I'm, you know, in college, and I see my sister going through, getting disciplined, I understand she needs it.
Miss Fuller, let me tell you what you did, madam. You interfered in a family situation. You had no business interfering with this family situation. Took it upon yourself to take this man's daughter, who was living with him, and he seems like a perfectly reasonable, responsible man, and according to his daughter, did absolutely nothing but discipline him in reasonable ways. Grounded her, took away her car, and she wasn't used to it because her mother never did any of those things. Now, the fact that she, to you, was upset and crying and seemed unhappy with her father, that's not a reason for you to interfere in a family situation. I mean, if you took some time and if you let the situation take some time, there is a possibility that father and daughter could have worked things out. But instead you hopped in there.
Your Honor?
Yes.
When Rashika called me, she told me her father did not have custody of her. Her mother had custody of her.
Miss Fuller, you knew she was living with her father?
Yes. We went to go get Rashika. Her mother and I went to go get Rashika. We took the Southgate police with us because Rashika and her mother said they were afraid for us to go there by themselves because he's a violent man and he had a lot of guns in the home.
Well, listen to me.
The Southgate police with us.
Listen to me. That was all a lot of baloney. She's back with her father. So whatever stories you got from either Rashika or her mother were not true, because if they were, and if she was genuinely fearful of her father because he has a violent temper and because he has guns in the house, she would not be living with him now.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today...
So you gotta learn to get your story straight. Before you gave me some baloney story about you said yes, you was gonna pay her back, but then your check was all messed up and you couldn't pay her back. Come on, get it together.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Doris Fuller wants Ray Lewanik to pay her for taking care of his daughter, Roshika. Ray says she took his daughter without his permission.
You butted in. And if you butted in, you gotta pay. So your lawsuit against this man is dismissed. And I suggest to you that before you take in any other teenagers and take them away from their custodial parents, and he was at that time a custodial parent, you better make darn sure that there is a good and valid reason. And that sometimes means leaving it up to professionals and stepping back. You're a biological stranger from this family. He didn't give his consent. He had absolutely no reason to have his child removed from his custody, other than the fact that, according to her, and I believe her, he disciplined her by grounding her when she did something wrong and by taking her car away. He's her father. He has an absolute right to do that. So, your lawsuit against him is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She took it upon herself. I told her again and again, this is blood related. You're nobody.
You hadn't seen her
I'm
for
the father.
11 months, Ray.
Of course I never saw her because you hid her from me.
No, I didn't.
And now the next case.
Parties on Sanders versus Murray. Step forward, please. Parties on Munoz, Villapando. Step forward, please.
Nadine Munoz is suing her former fiancé, Andy Villapando, for the money she put toward her engagement ring because he cheated on her. Andy says since Nadine bought her own ring, he's not responsible.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Munoz versus Villapando. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Well, this is a new twist on an engagement ring case. Ms. Munoz, according to your complaint, you went shopping with this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
You were becoming engaged, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. According to you, you picked out a ring that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have any money or any credit.
None whatsoever.
So you put your ring on your credit card.
Exactly.
First mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, you say he charged some tires on a credit card, 4 tires on a credit card of yours without your permission. To make a long story short, you're here, so that means you're no longer engaged.
Exactly. We're no longer engaged. We're no longer in speaking terms whatsoever.
And so tell me what you want from him.
I want him to pay half of the engagement ring that he gave me, that we both went together to go get. I had the appraisal. I also have the appraisal on the ring.
I'm not interested in the appraisal.
Okay.
I'm interested in the bill of sale.
Okay.
Where is
I
it?
have the bill of sale.
Can I have it, please? Okay. 26/27/94.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long did this love affair last after the ring was bought?
Not long.
How long?
Till May 31st.
Well, when was the ring purchased?
February 23rd.
So...
But I had no... I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I didn't walk out of the relationship. He did. He walked out.
I assume you weren't getting along?
It wasn't going anywhere, and so, but I tried to work it out. He didn't want to, so therefore he walked out.
Well, that's probably a good idea, right?
Yes, but he left me with the bill, and I thought that because of his promise that he made, that he was going to pay for part of the ring, I expected that in return.
Now I'm going to ask you this question. Why didn't you take the ring back to the jeweler?
I did. They would not give me my money back. They asked for credit, and I said, okay, fine. I then called Mr. Villalpando and asked him, look, I don't want you to be without anything, and I don't want to be without anything. Therefore, you get $1,500 worth of the ring, and I'll get $1,500 worth. And I did call him on that, because I no longer want the ring. I told Mr. Villalpando.
So why didn't you sell it?
I tried. You know how hard it is to sell a ring? I've tried for the months that went by. I've tried to sell that ring, and I can't.
Okay. Now, sir, you acknowledge, let's get rid of the tire question.
Okay.
Okay? Because I don't think that you deny that you signed her name and that you bought the tires, correct?
I'm a credit card for the tires, correct.
All right. And the tires were $330?
Correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid her $315, so I owe her $15.
Let me see.
My first payment was made cash, and I got 2 check duplicates. If you need to subpoena my bank records.
I don't subpoena anything, sir.
Okay.
I'm not your lawyer. I'm the judge.
Your Honor, on those checks that he gave me, that was part of the rent and the electric bills that he left me stuck with because he did not pay for anything. Everything is under my name in that apartment because Mr. Villalpando, again, has no credit whatsoever. He claimed bankruptcy in the beginning of January.
Did you leave her with any bills when you
No,
left?
ma'am. I used to bring my checks, and she's the one that took care of the finance.
That's not true. That's not true. We did both of our finances together. We did both of them together. He couldn't write the check on the apartment because of the fact that it was not leased under his name.
Okay. Now, sir, do you have any payments that you made to her in June of '97?
The only payments I made to her, ma'am, are those 2 and the one cash payment I made before those 2.
All right, so now I understand this. Would you give this back?
Sure.
Tires. You owe her $330. Now, let's get to the ring. Tell me about the ring, because your story was an interesting one, sir.
Well, on the ring, we had an agreement, yes, that she was going to allow me to charge a ring so I can get her because of my credit house from a divorce that pretty much ruined my credit. Anyways, I went out and I found a ring that I wanted to get her, and I took her to the store, and she pretty much made me feel about this little because the ring wasn't nice enough, big enough, and gaudy enough, and she specifically told me it had to be bigger than my ex-wife's. And I believe the ring was almost 2 carats as it was, and my ex-wife was only like 1 carat.
Your Honor.
So,
Sir, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice ring. It's not 2 carats.
Correct.
This is not 2 carats.
Correct.
Okay. So, go ahead. So you took her to the store, and you found a ring that you liked.
I found a ring. As a matter of fact, they were even having a big sale, so it was like a real good deal, everything. And she did not want it. It wasn't what she wanted and stuff like that. And to me, I felt like, you know, I'm buying it as a gift. You should appreciate what I'm getting you. And that's
So what happened? So you're at the store, and she doesn't like the ring.
She didn't like it, and so we didn't get a ring that day, and she decided she wanted to get a ring that she would like.
But you went with her again to find a ring that she liked.
Correct.
Okay.
And when she finally discovered the ring that she wanted, she asked me what I thought of it, and I told her it's up to her. And that's where it went, and she bought it and signed for it.
But you also promised that you were going to pay for half of it, or actually pay for the gift because it was a gift coming from you, considering the fact that you wanted to get engaged, Andy. You did.
My agreement, I'm sorry.
Your agreement was what?
My agreement was that I was going to pay for the ring that I was going to get her, not something that she didn't approve of or like and want.
No, that doesn't make sense, my friend. That doesn't make sense, my friend. Now it makes sense to you. Now it's a good story. Now I can understand that you went and found a ring, a little too small, not exactly what you wanted. She said she'd like something else. You went shopping with her again because I assume at that point you were still in love and you were planning on getting married, and at that point I assume you wanted her to be happy with the ring. That's why you went with her again. Doesn't look like anybody drags you any place where you don't want to go. And I assume that if the relationship had progressed and you married, that you would have made payments on this engagement ring that you gave her.
It probably would have came out of a joint checking account, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can't pay a $3,000 ring on my income, and I know he probably couldn't do it either, but it was something that he promised to pay, and it was a gift from him.
And later today,
I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took him to a drug dealer to pay off the debt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 27-year-old Nadine Munoz claims her former fiancé, 27-year-old Andy Villapando, cheated on her. So she's suing to recover the money she put toward her own engagement ring.
So what you have is a very interesting scenario, Miss Munoz. The ring should go back to him because it is an engagement ring.
Okay, I don't mind him having the ring as long as he pays the account.
Now, when you made this deal with him, was he supposed to pay for the whole ring?
He was supposed to, he made a verbal promise that he was going to pay for the whole ring. But when I brought him to court, I was being very noble by paying half.
Okay. Well, this was an engagement ring. Women don't pay for their own engagement rings unless they're crazy. She doesn't sound to me like she's crazy. And my sense is that at least at the time that she purchased this ring on her credit, it was something that you intended to pay for because it was an engagement ring. That's what happens. A man buys a woman an engagement ring. The fact that she didn't like the first ring, sir, that's not an excuse. That's just a good story that you made up, that you were willing to pay for the first one but not the second one, because that's pretty much what you're telling me. And if you weren't willing to pay for the second one, then you wouldn't have and shouldn't have gone shopping with her for a second one. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this whole ring was $2,627.94. And, sir, I don't think you paid it for the tires at all. So, Mr. Munoz, you just bought yourself a beautiful engagement ring and 4 new tires for the total price of $2,957.94. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now back to your rest.
I wanted friendship afterwards, and I stated it strongly with him that I wanted friendship, but I didn't want to be lied to like he lied to me.
I'm sorry this all happened.
No problem.
And now the next case.
Parties on Golda versus Greer. Step forward, please.
Next case.
Parties on Boldazar versus Jarvis. Step forward, please.
39-year-old Julie Boldazar wants her ex-husband, cable TV installer Lee Jarvis, 52, to pay the medical costs for their son's broken hand.
How long have you folks been divorced?
4.5, almost 5 years.
And how many children did you have together?
2.
Ms. Boldazar, according to your complaint, one of your sons was visiting with his father.
Yes.
And was injured.
Yes.
Playing in the backyard.
Yes.
You want him to cover half of the medical costs that were not reimbursed by your insurance.
Absolutely.
You say it's not your responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose responsibility is it?
That's a good question, Your Honor.
I only ask good questions.
In our divorce decree, it does not say I'm responsible for medical and dental.
Just a second. In your divorce decrees, does it say that your former wife is responsible for medical and dental?
No, ma'am, it's not.
So your divorce decree is silent as to who's responsible for medical and dental.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
So your former wife says, I am prepared to pay half. Took 2 of you to make a child. I'm prepared to pay half of the medical costs. Doesn't that sound right to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
That was easy.
Pretty easy.
Can I see the unreimbursed medical bills, please? Did you add up the unreimbursed amounts?
Yes, I believe it was $1,984.
Total?
Total, yes.
So he owes you for half of that?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, I believe so, too.
Thank you.
When the divorce judgment is silent, Mr. Jarvis, it seems to me you're a parent. You pay child support?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How much do you pay in child support?
The payment is $511 a month.
For 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
And who carries the insurance for the boys?
My husband, my current husband.
That's really not a lot of money for child support for 2 children. How old are the boys?
15 and 17.
$992. So that's what he owes you for that.
Thank you.
Now, there's another part of your claim that I don't quite understand.
Okay.
You want to explain it to me?
Sure. Both of the boys have, and I'm not sure of the medical term, but in layman's terms, extremely difficult orthodontic cases. Because my husband does carry orthodontic insurance as well on the boys, when it was presented to those orthodontists, they were not able to help us and had to refer us outside of the insurance system. And so we had to seek the services of very skilled orthodontists as well as jaw surgeons. My oldest son in particular is going to have a jaw surgery, which is horrible, very grotesque. Anyway, we didn't really have a choice. This is not a cosmetic situation. This is a medical condition. Because
well, if it's a medical condition, madam, why don't you take that up with your insurance company? Because no insurance company can disclaim, because if you say that this is a very serious condition.
Right.
HMOs very often try to disclaim.
Yes.
But what you have to do is you have to fight them. They can't say, we don't have doctors to fix the problem, and the problem is too serious, therefore you have to pay for it. That sounds ridiculous to me.
Right.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Well, in this case, Mr. Jarvis, you owe your former wife $992 for the unreimbursed medical bills of your son who was injured. I'm going to suggest to you, sir, that it doesn't look to me by the size of your boys that you have much longer to go with regard to your financial responsibility for them. That means you have to take a second job. Do it. That's what parents have to do. But these are your boys, and minimally half of the responsibility, especially since your former wife's husband is paying for the medical insurance, at least half of the bills that aren't covered by insurance have to be considered yours. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Teeters Holman versus Slatter. Step forward, please.
25-year-old Cammie Holman says 24-year-old vacuum salesman Jeffrey Slater swept her off her feet, conning her and her mother, Lois Teeters, out of thousands of dollars. Jeffrey says after he and Cammie split up, she began harassing him for money.
Order. All rise.
This is number 252 on the calendar in the matter of Teeters Holman versus Slatter. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Who's Mrs. Teeters? Is that you? Miss Holman? Mother and daughter. Former live-in boyfriend.
Correct.
I have two complaints here, and according to both complaints, at some point you met him and he moved into your house. And did you move in there with your child, sir?
Yes.
You have a daughter.
Yes.
How old is she?
3.
You have custody of her?
Not full custody, no.
Were you living with her full time when you moved into their house?
With my daughter, partial time, half and half.
And according to the complaint, during the time that he lived there, each of you were foolish enough to let him use a credit card, and he ran up substantial bills on those credit cards, and then took off. Why don't you start? First, what prompted you to let him move into the house?
Well, I was going to rent a room to somebody anyway to help me make ends meet, and they were getting together, and he was interested in moving out from his mother's place. She was driving him nuts or something, so he needed a place to live. So it worked out. It seemed fine for both of us.
But according to these papers, he moved into your daughter's room.
Yes, they were a couple by then.
So that didn't help to pay your bills.
Well, he was going to pay rent. Yes, he was paying rent.
He was paying rent?
Yes, he paid the rent.
How much rent did he pay?
$400 a month.
Okay, now would you mind telling me why you gave him a credit card?
It started out just, you know, he wanted to make some purchases, and he only got paid every 2 weeks, and he was gaining weight, needed clothes and what have you, and he would give me a post-dated check. And I let him do that, and he did. The first couple of purchases, he gave me a check, and I held it, and then, you know, when he got paid and it was good, I mailed it in to the credit card company.
Did you give him his own credit card, or did you just let him use yours?
No, he had authorization. Cammie has copies of my cards. We have, you know, 2 cards on the account, so if she was with him and they were shopping, they would get something and put it on my card. And he gave me a check and paid me back. So the first 2 or 3 times, you know, that was swell, it worked. And he wanted to make some larger purchases, and the arrangement...
Like what?
Oh, well, he was trying to build his car to race, so he wanted like a transmission, and he had this good deal and a converter and different things that he was buying. And the arrangement was that he would make the payments to the credit card company, and that worked for me because then I didn't have to come up with the minimum. My minimum would be met. And he would get behind, like it would be 2 or 3 months. I'd get phone calls from the creditors, and they'd say, "You're behind," and I would check with him, and he'd say, "Oh, I mailed it, I'll call them and straighten it out." So he did make some small payments on the minimums on the account. I can't say for the first few months because it would be 2 or 3 months before he made a payment, but you see.
Okay, now how much does he owe altogether on your credit card? Take it out. We'll show it to him. Together with the purchases.
The total that I have mine made up for is $4,926.60. That's documented amounts.
Okay. Have you shown those to him, those charges?
Yes, he has copies. He
You
has
have
been
copies
given
of those,
copies
sir?
in the past.
I've had copies. I don't have them with me now.
But you've seen them?
I've seen them, yeah.
Good. Now what about your credit card?
Okay, my credit card started out with he needed a gas tank fixed in his 68 Camaro because at the beginning of our relationship, that was his transportation to work. He didn't have the money.
First, what prompted you to have him come into your house? How long had you known each other before you decided to move him into your house?
We were friends before, and then we got together, and we were together every day since. And so
How long?
How long? That once we got together?
Now, how long were you friends first?
Oh, May of '96.
Yes.
And then got together July 4th.
Of '96?
Yes.
A really long courtship. At least 8 weeks.
Well, he's a very smooth talker. I was also coming out of a bad marriage, and it's nice when someone tells you, you know, all these wonderful things about you, makes you feel wanted and loved, which is what I needed at the time, I guess. And I think he played on that too, but that's a personal thing.
So he moved in?
Yes. And we made a room for his daughter. She had her very own room. My mom and I purchased all the stuff to decorate it. We made them, it was their home.
Are any of these bills bills for what you did in furnishing his daughter's room?
No. And Tiffany has her bedding and stuff. Her mother has it. She uses it with Tiffany.
But those were gifts?
Right, those were gifts, yes.
Okay, but so now tell me about how you came to give him your credit card.
He needed a gas tank, like I said, the repair, and he didn't have the money. And, you know...
Did you know that he was already using your mother's credit card?
No, he hadn't. He used mine before he used my mom's.
Did you know that he had used your daughter's before you let him use yours?
I don't really remember if I knew it specifically that he had.
Go ahead.
So we got his gas tank repaired. He was driving a long distance, and he'd run out, basically have to fill up just to get back home because it was all pouring out on the ground.
And how much was that?
That was $120. That's a rough. I mean, I have it of the credit card thing.
Okay, but there were a lot of bills here, according to you. $3,000 some odd worth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 25-year-old Cammie Holman says the man she thought she loved, 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater, conned her and her mother, Lois Teeters, out of thousands of dollars. Jeffrey says Cammie is angry because they broke up.
Give me an idea of what he was purchasing on your credit card.
On mine specifically?
Not yours.
Robinson's May. He needed new clothes. Like my mom stated, he had gained weight when we got together. I guess he liked my mom's cooking. I don't know. So there were lots of purchases for new clothes for him, as well as one of his mom's Christmas present was purchased on my Robinson's May card.
Did you purchase your mother's Christmas present on her credit card?
She purchased it, yeah.
He was with me at shopping. His mother would not have gotten a Christmas present, or her boyfriend, if it hadn't been me paying for it.
Well, I understand that, but did he say, can I buy my mother a Christmas present and put it on your card?
No.
Shh. Did he say that to you?
He said, I said, we need to go shopping and buy your mom something. He said, well, what should we do? I said, well, let's go to Robinson's May and get something for her. So we went, because I have a Robinson's May card. But that's only $21.54. That's...
Well, you see, that's a problem.
Right.
Because in order to have an agreement for him to pay you back, there has to be some sort of an agreement. This wasn't a, you know, I'll lend you the money to buy your mom a Christmas present.
So we can get rid of the Christmas
so
present.
Give me some others.
Okay, so he got clothes for him, $297.25, $132.50, $43.09. Those are all clothes for him.
Give me some of the big bills that come up to $3,000.
Jacob's electronic system. That is an electronic system for his '68 race car, his Camaro. It's an electronic system.
And how much was that?
Part of it was $515.44. The other part is $281.85.
Does that, Mr. Slater, have a familiar ring to it?
I know exactly what the Jacob system is.
No, but does that bill?
Yeah, the bill, no, I know exactly what it is.
Well, then tell me about it, sir.
Well, during the time that we were living together, I went ahead and we were building my race car. Or at the time we were building it.
What do you mean we were building your race car?
They were helping me purchase items for my car.
Yeah.
And during that time, I purchased an electronic system for making the car run proper. And I went ahead, ordered it with their consent. And when it came in, as time came on, I gave money for it over a period of time.
So you're telling me that you paid it all off?
I'm not saying I paid everything, because a lot of the stuff that we had purchased were purchases together.
No, not for your car.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Let's just talk about the car. I mean, I read your answer, and you seem to say, I don't know anything. That these were things that were purchased sort of as a couple.
A lot of stuff was purchased as a couple, yes, but as the car, over the course of time that I've lived there, I have paid money to the credit card companies
How
direct.
much? Show me.
This here, what I have in my hand, is basically a check register on two different things that shows
I'm
documentation.
not interested in your check register, sir.
Well, what I'm saying is this here shows what I paid, when I paid, and amounts.
It shows nothing. Canceled checks show what you paid.
Okay, well, I can get canceled checks, but I did not get any, no.
Well, where did you think you were coming today, sir? To a ball? You were coming to court. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a store manager.
Which means that you know something about business.
Correct.
Right? You can take a check register and sit down and do it almost like a novel. Write whatever you want in there. That's why we use canceled checks as proof. What is that? That is nothing. A check register is a nothing. How much did he pay in total on your credit card?
I don't know. I didn't include any of the ones that he had paid.
None.
No.
And what about you, Cammie?
He gave me about $140. That went to, he took my car to Bakersfield.
Whatever. He gave you
And
about
used a gas card.
$140.
Yes.
Can I
it
see some of
wasn't
these?
credit
Now I
card.
want to take a look at some of the charges.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's the whole package. Yeah. There's letters in there saying, we highlighted some.
I don't want
parts
the
for you.
letters. I just want to see
Okay. It just says that he's going to pay us. So I didn't know that particular one right there on top.
Jacobs Electronics ignition system, $515. Is that you?
That was mine.
Okay. How about a trip to Texas airfare? What is that?
When we were dating, we were going to plan a trip to go to my father's house, and I didn't have the money at the time, and she made the arrangements with my job. She went ahead and purchased the tickets for me, Cammie, and my daughter, and we flew out.
So this was for me to go back and meet his family, to meet his family.
Is that what the trip was intended for, sir?
It was just supposed to be a trip for all of us to go visit, because I haven't seen my father in quite a few years.
Well, why should she pay for that?
It was a gesture. She said okay, and then I was going to pay part of it.
You were going to pay part of it?
Yeah, I was.
How much?
As much as my plane ticket was.
And what about your daughter?
Well, we hadn't talked about that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Pay $72 to get your hair styled. They're ripping you off, sir.
Real people, Judge Judy. Cammie Holman says she thought she loved 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater until she realized he was conning her and her mother, Lois Teeters. Jeffrey denies the allegation.
We have something here. Spark plugs.
Yeah, he bought new spark plugs and wires for his car, Excel. I was at an auto parts store. They wouldn't take his check.
Is that you, sir? Spark plugs.
Yes,
That
probably.
sound familiar? Why don't you
could be.
pay your own bills? Why are you relying on these two ladies to pay your bills?
During that particular thing there, they would not accept a check from me at that time for whatever reason.
So why don't you just give them cash? Everybody accepts cash.
I didn't have cash on me.
Well, why
And
don't you
then-
just go to the bank and get cash?
Well, we were going to, but Cammie said, well, why don't we just put it on my charge and then you can pay me
You
back.
said, can we just use your charge instead of having to leave and go to the bank and come back?
All right. Look, there came a time when you left, right?
Yes.
Why?
Things were working out between us, and I decided, things were going to work out for the long term, and I wanted to get out of there. And then after I left, things started getting more hectic. I had to have the cops called on her at my job.
Why is that, sir?
Because he hit me and threw me on the ground and left bruises, which the bruise pictures are at home. I accidentally forgot him.
When she came in my job, she come in ranting and raving because she didn't want me to leave, first of all. And
'Cause you owe my
I
mom
said,
money.
okay. She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did. And then after that, I got up, grabbed the phone to make a phone call to the police. And at that time, when I started coming up, she comes around our counter bin and hangs up the phone. And then grabs me by the hair and just yanks a ton of
that's
hair
not
out.
what happened.
And then during that time, then she's saying, well, you owe my mom this, you owe my mom that, and I want it this and that. And then my phone rang. I finally got away from Cammie. And when the phone rang, I answered the phone, and it was the Fullerton Police Department when they had to come out and
How
take her.
much after you left did this incident occur? Assuming, sir, that what you say is true, how much after you left did she come to your job?
Oh, she came to my job a couple times, but we had numerous amount of phone calls during the day. And then what finally ended up happening after I had the cops come, I had to leave that job and go to a whole different area and get away from them because of the phone calls and everything else. I was in the verge of losing my job because of it.
And how much money have you sent to both plaintiffs since you left?
Since I left?
Yes.
Not specifically to them, but that I sent to the credit card companies are probably around maybe $800 or so.
Just a minute. $800?
Roughly.
Show me the last bill here. And now, in what month did you leave, sir?
May.
Now take out your last check register. I love it when a game plan comes together. Your last check register, sir. Since May.
This particular one right here is one of the last ones that I made.
The last bill that came from NBNA and stuff, I think.
May. What date did he leave?
May 1st.
May 1st.
That's what time I told him to get out. He came.
Just a second. Shh. Is your credit card MBNA?
That's mine.
That's yours. All right. So here we have MBNA, $140. And then we're going to go down, and I'm going to see if I can find after May the rest of the $800. Let's see here. I must be missing something.
It might be right in April, too, when I paid some money.
We're not talking about April. I'm talking about since you left, sir.
Well,
I speak English. Do you speak English?
Yeah.
You said after May, after you left, you gave her about $800, and that your check register is accurate. So I see May 15th, $140. I'm just looking for the rest of the $800. I see one in July to a Powerhouse Gym for $350.
No,
Just later.
That's something else.
That's something else.
And that might be not the most current one because I had to change bank accounts.
No, this goes, sir, through all of the months. June, July, August. This does
I know,
everything.
but I have 2 different checking accounts.
Sir, you see anything written on my forehead? Huh?
No.
Who's Nicole?
My hairstylist.
Pay $72 to get your hair styled.
He pays for
They're ripping you off, sir. Well, so far, sir, all I see of the $800 is $140. Nothing else. I see another $380 for your gym. Spend a lot of money between your haircuts and gym. Nothing for what you owe.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Sir, you have to take responsibility for what you do. These people are not related to you by blood. They are not related to you by marriage.
Thank God.
You had a relationship with this young lady. She thought it would work out. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. In any event, you spent a lot of their money. Not only did you spend it, you enjoyed it, and you have the fruits of it. You're driving around in a car unless you sold it that they fixed. You're wearing nice clothes that they paid for. You have a nice stereo system that you listen to. And on and on and on, based on these bills that you say you saw. So you owe them the money. And your excuse that you didn't have an agreement with them is just a lot of baloney. I mean, I don't think that these are ladies that have an awful lot of money. And I think, furthermore, your conduct, knowing that you owe them the money, and spending in 2 months' period of time almost $800 on a gym and $70 to get your hair coiffed is a lot of nerve. So the judgment in the case is for one plaintiff in the amount of $3,000 and the other in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Excuse you, may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next, Chastity Bell claims her ex-boyfriend's friend, Anthony Carper, owes for a loan to pay court fines. Oops.
How are you related to her?
I'm not related to her. I'm the witness's mother.
Which witness?
Right.
Jesse.
I don't know.
You don't know she's your mother?
No, I do, but I mean, I don't know how this all came about.
I do. We're going to find out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Bell.
Yes.
How old are you?
22.
You work?
Yes.
For whom?
My father.
Doing what?
I'm a receptionist of his company. I've been working there for about 5 years.
Is it a successful company?
Yes.
How many children are there in your family?
I have one brother and one sister.
Is your sister younger or older?
She's older. She's 32.
So you're the baby daughter?
Yes.
Pretty one.
Thank you.
According to what I read, you used to be involved romantically with him.
Mm-hmm.
The one who's going to sit up and uncross his arms.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was a friend of this one.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So you became a friend of this one.
Well, I was friends with him before Jesse and I actually got into a relationship.
And I gather that your father must have been thrilled with your choice of boyfriend.
Absolutely not.
Now, I could tell that before I even sat down. Because these two charmers ended up in jail.
Correct.
For whatever. We'll figure it out. And it is your claim that you loaned Mr. Carper money to pay off his criminal fines.
Correct.
Mr. Carper says that you did pay off his criminal fines, and you did so as a gift because you were a friend of his. He says you were more than a friend of his, that you had a romantic relationship.
We were never boyfriend and girlfriend.
Listen, he didn't say boyfriend and girlfriend, he just says you were intimate with both of them.
No.
And all I can say is yuck. Can you imagine a father who has a company that has enough money to employ a receptionist? And this is the boyfriend and this is the friend that she goes to visit both of them in jail? How many times did you go to visit them in jail?
I never visited them in jail.
Oh, good, at least. Thank God for that. What were you in jail for, Mr. Carper?
Personal reasons, ma'am.
Personal reasons is not a criminal offense.
Quiet! I made a stupid decision, John.
Mr. Carper, when I ask a question, I expect an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you in jail for?
Possession.
Possession of?
Schedule 2 substance. Pills.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
No, ma'am.
And the last time you were arrested was when, sir?
Before I got incarcerated.
When were you incarcerated?
It's March of 2002.
And how long were you in prison?
30 months.
What prison?
Coffeewood and Camp 7.
Are you still on parole status?
Yes, ma'am.
Until when?
It's indefinite.
You're on indefinite parole?
Yes, ma'am.
Fabulous. Now your friend, what's his name?
Jesse Goff.
Jesse. How long have you and Jesse been friends?
Since I was 5 years old, ma'am.
And what was he in prison for?
Assault.
Assault?
Yes, ma'am.
How long had Jesse and Miss Bell been friends?
They had known each other for a long time. I never met her. She said I knew her before they started dating. I never met this girl until I came home. I didn't know who she was. So that's a lie right there.
How long did you think they were involved? He was in prison with you, right?
We were in the county jail together.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
When were you in the county jail together?
2003.
Did he know her then? Were they involved then?
I take it. No, they weren't involved.
No.
When did you first hook up with Jesse?
I started talking to Jesse actually back in high school, about 9th grade.
When did you start to see him romantically?
I want to say July.
And he's just out of jail?
Yes.
You're his mother?
I am.
Sometimes you bake a souffle and it falls. Happen. Tell me about the loan.
I loaned him $4,589 on September 29th to pay off his charges, which I have receipts of.
Well, tell me how it came about that you laid out that money.
Well, I saw him apply after job after job after job, and he kept getting turned down because he didn't have his license. And
what do you mean you saw him?
Well, I would take him and Mr. Goff to apply at jobs. And
why would you do that?
I was trying to help them out by taking them to fill out job applications so they could get a job, and I didn't want them to get locked back up. And I asked Mr. Carper if I were to pay off his fines, he could get his license and get a job, and if him and Jesse were willing to be my roommates, because I'm going through separation, so I...
Separation from?
My husband.
You have any children?
I have a 3-year-old daughter.
So you wanted to take your 3-year-old daughter and be their roommate?
Yes.
Who do you live with now?
Now I live with my parents. I'm currently trying to sell.
Stay there, because your judgment is impaired, big time.
Recently it has been, I do agree.
If you are a 22-year-old woman and your judgment is impaired and all you're doing is hurting yourself, that's one thing. But to take your 3-year-old child and on purpose, move in out of your parents' home into an apartment with 2 convicted felons who are on parole, one for drugs, and I'm not so sure about him now, is the kind of lapsed judgment that your parents aren't going to tolerate.
It's actually a house that I own, and my husband, my ex, moved out, and I could not afford the mortgage. And I actually lived there, and it was either I find some roommates or I try to...
I don't care if you have to live in a shelter. You don't take a 3-year-old child and put a 3-year-old child in a circumstance where you have 2 convicted felons, one of whom was there for pills.
I agree.
Got it?
It was also cocaine.
So you paid off his fines?
Yes.
And how was he supposed to pay you back?
He was going to pay me monthly because I actually charged it on a credit card, and he agreed to pay me monthly. At first, a little bit over the minimum payment, and then, you know, he was going to pay me a lot more.
What were the fines for? Can I see the piece of paper that you have? You think that's a real diamond in his ear?
It definitely is.
I doubt it.
Is that a real diamond in your ear?
Of course, ma'am. I don't wear fake things.
What?
I said I don't wear fake things. Just
Could I see it, please?
You
Yeah,
said?
take it out.
Wow.
Thank you. Felony fee, fines, $1,000. Felony fee, $350. Jail admission fee, $25. And court-appointed attorney, $437. Love it. Commonwealth of Virginia. Good for Virginia. And what would happen to you, Mr. Carper, if you didn't pay these fines?
They would probably violate my parole.
And then what would happen to you?
Then I would not see the light of day forever.
What do you think fines are for, sir?
To be paid, ma'am.
Because they're part of your what?
Probation.
Part of your what? Punishment.
Yes, ma'am.
And if somebody else pays your fine, then you have no...
Punishment.
Right! Why do you think a court would allow that to happen?
Because it's the law, ma'am.
What's the law? Why do you think a court would allow somebody else to do your punishment? Let me ask you this, sir. We've already established that payment of the fine is what?
Punishment.
Right. And you're going to jail was a form of...
Punishment, ma'am.
Now, you couldn't say to somebody else, listen, I want you to do me a favor. I don't feel like going to jail. I'm going to go out and sell a whole bunch of pills and maybe a little cocaine, so I'm going to have a couple of bucks, you know. I'm going to give you $10,000 to do my 30 months. You think that the state would permit that to happen?
No, ma'am.
What would the person say to you now? I don't mind going to jail. I have nothing else to do. I could really use the $10,000. I'll go to jail for you for the 30 months. You think the state would permit that?
No, ma'am.
Because then you wouldn't be doing your own. Let somebody else pay your fines. You're allowing somebody else to do your...
Punishment, ma'am.
Is he a quick learner or what? So the first thing you have to do in order to do your punishment is sell your diamonds. That's what the first thing that people do is sell their diamonds, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then they pay the rest of their debt, $4,500. Maybe you can get $89 for this Coke diamond. When did you give him up as a boyfriend?
We weren't really actually together because he's not capable of just having one girlfriend. We were supposedly together for probably about maybe a month.
You are an articulate, nice-looking girl who clearly has very low self-esteem. Because if you didn't have low self-esteem, you wouldn't have been involved with either one of them.
Correct.
You have parents who have a business, you have a child, you've made some bad judgments, but you're only 22 years old. You have the capacity to change. You have anything you want to add to what I've already said?
I do.
I mean, I'm just dying to hear why you would come be her witness if your son is sitting over there.
Because what's wrong is wrong, and you're absolutely right. He's skating his punishment.
Do you have anything new to add?
I think it's a fine how you do to thank somebody for doing all that she did for you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. By the way, did she also pay your son's fines?
Yes, she did.
Did he pay her back?
No, we actually go to court for that on March 7th. Prince William County.
Should we just hang out here?
Just a second. Just a second. So why don't you do this? You're his mother, right?
I am.
You made him. You raised him. Why don't you pay his fines?
Because he's 24 years old and I'm not responsible for him anymore.
Right, yeah, I know, but you're more responsible than a stranger. Maybe you should just
I would not have paid his fines in the first place.
You would let him go back to jail?
I would.
But you're absolutely right. Sit down. In any event, she paid $4,589 in order to keep you free. I'm entering a judgment for $4,500 and his diamond. Thank you. That's all.
21-year-old Dana Anthony is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Ryan Anderson, for his share of 2 months' rent and for half of a lease termination fee.
Miss Anthony, the defendant was your boyfriend. You signed a 1-year lease on an apartment with him. He moved out prior to the termination of the lease. You want him to be responsible for certain fees and rent.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson says that you made it impossible for him to live there, and that's why he moved out. Is this the new boyfriend?
Yes.
Stand up. I have a few questions for you. Last name is?
Talbert.
Mr. Talbert, when did you meet Miss Anthony?
First week of December, maybe a day before.
And at that time, Miss Anthony, you and Mr. Anderson were sharing the apartment together.
Yes.
But you had already terminated your relationship.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Talbert, During the month of December 2008, how many nights did Miss Anthony spend in your home?
Roughly 10 to 12 of those nights in my home.
Thank you. You could be seated.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And this is Mr. Anderson's defense to moving out early and not paying you. See, he said that you had a one-bedroom apartment and you elected to take the bedroom when you separated.
I took the bedroom because I purchased all the furniture in the apartment, and when we broke up, we made an agreement that he would stay in the living room and I would get the bedroom. I said, anytime I'm not there, feel free to stay in the bedroom. I'm not there. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Mr. Anderson says that he did just that. He didn't tell me that that was an agreement that you had. Was that an agreement?
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Desiree Loire claims ex-boyfriend Anthony Tatum owes for unpaid rent from their shared apartment. Desiree also says Anthony slashed her comforter and put a hole in the wall.
I have a feeling it's advice time. Miss Loire, this used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you also shared an apartment with him.
Yes.
You claim he owes you a whole bunch of money, dating back to 2005. You do know we're in 2007 now.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Tatum says he owes you nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice-looking couple. How old are you?
21.
And you?
22.
And you moved in together when you were 19 and you were 20.
Correct.
Old enough to sign a contract?
Yes.
Definitely.
So you signed a lease together?
Multiple.
Multiple leases together?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not talking about all the leases you signed together. I'm talking about the last one after you moved out, because that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. And it is the plaintiff's claim that you moved out, you owed her rent, you damaged some of her property, and you loaned him money in 2005 for some car insurance. That you don't remember. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at a Japanese restaurant as a bartender.
And you?
I'm a student.
How do you support yourself?
Currently my parents do, ma'am.
Have you ever supported yourself?
For the past 3 years, yes.
So you just went back to school?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing for the last 3 years?
I was selling cars.
Did you make a living at it?
Very much so.
Why did you decide to go back to school?
I made a life-changing mistake of driving under the influence and lost my license.
That's a reason.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you injure anybody?
No, ma'am.
How long is your license suspended for?
It's no longer suspended. I just can't be picked up by the insurance of a dealership. Therefore, I'm back in school.
Gotcha. Okay. That was life-changing.
Very much. I learned a life lesson.
So I'm going to give you both another one. Don't ever move in with somebody and sign a lease together. Single people who want to try living together should always get an apartment that each of them can afford separately. Isn't that a smart idea?
Absolutely.
So that if it doesn't work out, somebody says, this is my apartment, that was our agreement, you leave, I can pay the rent all by myself. Of course, I understand that by saying this, I will probably lose 40% of the cases that I try each year, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the purpose of the common good. Right?
You will not lose a single case.
You know, he says that because nobody's going to listen to me. But if they did listen, there's a certain wisdom in what I say. That way, 2 people wouldn't be homeless, 2 people wouldn't have their credit in the toilet, 2 people would not have to go back to mama or whatever. You would be able to separate and say, it didn't work out. So you signed this lease together when?
In September of 2005.
And when did you move out, sir?
October 30th of 2005.
Are you still living in the apartment?
No, I'm not.
When did you move out?
February of 2006.
So you only stayed there for a couple of months?
I was there for 6 months.
November, December, January. You stayed till the end of February?
September to the end of February.
I'm not talking about September. He left in October. Did you pay October's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he did not.
Well, I don't know that. How do I know that? 2 years ago. Let's talk about November, December, and January. 3 months that you lived there, that he lived with you there for those 3 months.
Nobody. I lived by myself. He refused to sign off the lease, so I was unable to.
You say there was somebody else living in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am. Her friend Tracy, who is also my friend, and her witness's friend moved in at the beginning of November.
How do you know that, sir?
Because I went over there and she was living there.
You went over there when?
To get the rest of my stuff at the beginning of November.
How do you know she was living there?
Because my friend was her boyfriend at the time and he was also going over there.
That's completely untrue.
Did she stay there?
She stayed there occasionally. If we would.
How occasionally?
A couple nights a week. If we went out, she'd stay over. But no, she did not pay rent. None of her things were there.
Well, you should have. How to pay rent? How many bedrooms in this apartment?
1.
Where did she sleep when she stayed over?
In my bed.
So?
Well, I don't think someone who stays 2 nights a week should have to pay rent.
Why not?
I guess.
Was it your agreement with him to move out?
I asked him to move out, yes, because
then
he
you
was
pay the rent.
not paying rent.
Then you pay the rent.
Well, he should have signed off the lease, which he refused to.
And what did you do?
I couldn't do anything. He wouldn't sign off the lease. He kept threatening to come back and get the copies of the keys so he could come in and...
Madam, where were you the last 2 years?
The last 2 years, I've had my own apartment and house, and I've working and going to school.
But where were you in the last 2 years? If you moved out in February of 2006, now we're talking about a year ago.
Yes.
Where were you in this last year?
I was trying to collect money from him, but...
But he weren't collecting. He didn't give you any money.
Exactly, I couldn't.
Well, then why didn't you sue him in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December? Why?
I was trying to be understanding of his situation with his car and everything like that, and he couldn't hold a job, so there's no way that he could give me any money.
What made you stop being understanding?
Well, because I'm just tired. It's ridiculous.
You lived in the apartment with sometimes Tracy? You pay the rent. What else?
He damaged my property, my couch, and stabbed my comforter.
Forget the comforter. I'm not interested in the 2-year-old comforter. How did he damage your couch?
He poured beer and dip spit all over it.
When?
On November 21st.
That's not true, ma'am.
You have a witness to that?
I do.
Go ahead.
The day of November 21st, Desiree called me crying. I got over there. There was a gigantic hole in the wall when I walked in. The entire living room was trashed, stuff everywhere, food thrown around.
Where was he?
He was nowhere to be found.
Well, so you didn't see him do anything?
He was there that morning.
He was there that morning.
Just a second. You didn't see him do anything?
No, I didn't see him do anything, but the people that had stayed the night prior to that had seen him come over in the morning.
Goodbye. Thank you. You have that Mr. Tatum was the cause of any damage to your property.
Well, because he called me screaming after he did it.
What did he say?
I can't believe you had those guys stay the night.
What guys is he talking about?
We had been drinking at my apartment. I had friends stay the night.
How many friends?
2. They had slept on the couch. And that's when he came over that morning to get his things.
Yes.
And he freaked out.
How do you know that?
Well, because they told me they were there. And then he came in with a tire iron and hit the wall.
What?
And poured everything on my couch.
You have absolutely no proof that he did any of that.
I
And
took
if you have 2 friends that you allowed to sleep at your house after they were drinking who witnessed him do it.
They didn't witness him do it. They witnessed him come in and make a scene, and then they left, and then he came back after that. He told me. I talked to him on the phone afterwards.
Did you ever acknowledge to her
No,
that
ma'am.
you destroyed her property?
No, ma'am.
Time to move on. Time to move on and get over it. Do you understand?
Yes.
This is a court, not nonsense. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Natalie Holtz claims ex-fiancé Thomas Parrish owes for breaking their lease and for harassing her over the phone. Thomas claims he moved out because of Natalie's constant nagging.
Miss Holtz, it is your claim that Mr. Parrish, who was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time, owes you some money for rent and also for harassing you. Mr. Parrish says that you're actually the one who's bothering him, that he contributed to the rent while he was living at the apartment with you and your children. But when he moved out of the apartment after a disagreement, he stopped paying rent. He's not on a lease. He feels no obligation to pay rent when he's not living there. Okay. When did you move into the apartment with Mr. Parrish?
After we got engaged. We got engaged December of '05.
Did he give you a ring?
Yes, he did. I have it with me.
Okay.
And I even went with my mom and bought a wedding dress, and I bought my daughter's dresses. We were going to have a ceremony on the beach. And
when did you move in together?
Mid-February of '06. And he went with me to the leasing office. When we went to fill out the forms for the application fee, which was $150, and to transfer within the same complex to a 2-bedroom, that was $500.
So you had a 1-bedroom apartment with your 2 children?
Correct.
Where were you living, sir?
I was renting a house in Chesapeake, which
With
is
his mother.
about 35 minutes from where she was living.
Okay, so you weren't living together in the 1-bedroom apartment?
No.
No.
I'm looking at him.
Sorry.
You moved into the two-bedroom apartment in February of 2006, and the lease was in your name only.
Correct, but we had discussed, we had an agreement that we would rent the two-bedroom together for 1 year to save up money to buy a house for after we got married. And he paid half the rent for 10 months.
Right, I got you, while he lived there.
Right, correct.
And he paid the rent faithfully, half of the rent, despite the fact that he's only one person out of 4 living in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they were minors.
I don't care if they're minors or not. He's one person out of 4.
Correct.
Living in the apartment. You get child support for your 2 children?
I get for 1 child because he has them half of the month and I have them half the month.
So you get child support for 1 child?
Correct.
How much?
$400 a month.
Okay. And he paid half of the other expenses on the apartment for the 10 months that he was living there?
Yes, he did. He paid half the utilities.
Half of everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what happened when he moved out?
He didn't give me any notice. He just...
So you must have had a disagreement.
We got into a fight.
About what?
I had asked him to do the dishes, and he was watching TV.
Just you could get a turn.
And I waited about 2 hours. He still hadn't done it, so I went ahead and did it. And I got upset with him. I said, thanks a lot for helping me out around the house. You know, you eat on the dishes too. And he said, well, I was going to do it. I didn't know there was a time limit. And he started yelling at me. My youngest daughter was home. He was yelling in front of her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you yelling around her. He said, well, then I won't. And he went and, where are you going? He's like, I'm moving out. He gave me no notice. I said, what do you mean? Are you going to a hotel room? And he's like, no, I'm moving out. I'm not coming back.
Ms. Holtz, there must have been some clue to you prior to that things weren't going well.
We had had a few disagreements, yes, about...
So things were not going well?
Correct.
Well, you don't want your children to be involved with that sort of hostile environment, do you?
No, but he had only yelled one other time in a year and a half. And
well,
it wasn't
fine. That's fine.
Day occurrence.
That's fine. You don't want it to get any worse, do you? You don't want your children in an environment that's not healthy.
No, that's why.
So that it would be a... Shh. So that it would be a good idea that he left.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
But I felt he was obligated for the last 2 months of the rent.
Where are you living now?
I just moved to a smaller apartment that I could afford on my own.
Just a second. How much rent was this apartment that you moved into together?
$1,203 a month.
And how much was the rent in the apartment that you had been living in?
It was $988. The 1 bedroom, and my new rent is $895.
So the difference in rent was $200 a month between the 1 bedroom and the 2 bedroom.
Right, but if we wouldn't have gotten engaged, I wouldn't have gotten that apartment. I would have gotten something I could afford on my own, Your Honor.
I look at objective things. Objectively, you were paying $1,000 on one, and this is $1,200.
And I knew I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a roommate, or if we hadn't gotten engaged. I would have gotten a smaller apartment on my own.
Good.
And I also have bank checks for the transfer fee and the application fee, which he agreed to pay half of. And I also have harassment. I want like $1,000 for phone harassment. I have phone records of him
You
calling.
mean after, you just said, Ms. Holtz, do you mean to tell me after he moved out, because he said he wanted it over?
Correct.
He started calling you? You didn't call him?
No.
Just a second. Just listen to me. You just listen to me. You didn't call him?
No, Your Honor.
He called you?
Yes, and I have tape recording of it, calling me terrible names.
You never called me.
Just a second. Mr. Parrish.
Yes, ma'am.
When you left, sir, it is your claim that Miss Holtz called you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say when she called you?
She called me a lot of adjectives that I won't use here, and I left. The reason I left was more than just the dishes.
Go ahead, sir.
To back up and give you some background of just that day, I won't be long-winded. It was a Sunday morning. I had some work to do. I was going to do it early in the morning. Instead, I put that work off until the afternoon. While she laid in bed, I did the dishes, fed the kids, cleaned the kitchen, did 2 loads of laundry, put all that away, spruced the house up while she's still in bed, asked her if there's anything else I can do before I went and did my work. No, everything's fine. I went away and worked it took me about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a small contractor.
Go ahead.
It took about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back. The NFL football playoffs were on. I watched the second half of the first game. The next game was the Dallas game, which I'm a huge fan. She knows that. I sat down to watch that. In the meantime, she had gone in the kitchen and started going off about everything. I had left a Walmart receipt on the counter from where I bought some groceries the day before, which I bought my share and then some of the groceries for all 4 of us. She started griping about the receipt on the table. You know, why'd you leave this receipt here? You want money from me? I said, did I ever ask you for money? Is this why you left the receipt? She on and on and on. This goes on for over an hour.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt him.
After the conclusion of that, she goes and stands in front of the television, or not directly in front of it, right beside it, hand on her hip, and says, "You've watched one football game, now I expect you're going to sit here and watch another one?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to watch another one. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm going to watch the game." And she said something, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up. I had some shirts and some clothes in the apartment. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm leaving. I've had enough."
Your Honor, he never works on Sundays. He hates working on Sundays. He did not go to work
Your
that
Honor,
day.
I'm a...
What difference does it make whether he
Because
went to
he's
work or
lying.
not?
It's showing that he lies.
I
He's
did
lying.
go to work.
Ms. Holtz, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And what doesn't make sense to me is I listened to him only for a couple of minutes, and I've made a judgment, because I'm usually good at making judgments, that he's not a nut.
Thank you.
I don't.
You haven't heard this.
Oh, I don't think he's a nut. I think maybe he was stretched to the limit, but I don't think he's a nut. And I think when he left, he probably would have left you alone. But you started bugging him because you were angry, just as you are angry right now. You are so angry right now, you can't even contain yourself.
I'm just nervous, Your Honor.
You're angry. You're still angry.
I'm angry at what he called me, yes. He called me very vulgar and obscene things, and I don't deserve that.
I'm going to ask you again to answer my question and answer it honestly. After he left that day, who called who first?
He called me.
First?
Yes,
And
he
what-
called me
just
27 times.
Just a second. So what did he say, Miss Holtz, when he called you after he left?
He said that I only think about myself, that I'm a self-centered, and I can't repeat what he called me. And yes, I did call him once. I asked him for my key back.
Just a second. My question was, who called who first?
He called me first. I have the phone records.
You have a phone record that shows all your outgoing calls?
Yes, I do, but his
Great.
is first.
Great. Let me take a look at what you have. Put a mark next to where you called him.
I'll put a star where I called him. All the other check marks are him calling me.
Just go back to the beginning.
The beginning is where he left on the 6th.
What's your phone number, sir?
286.
At your mother's house.
That's my cell phone. That's the only.
At your
that's-
cell phone.
It's the only phone I use. Yes, ma'am.
Well, on the 6th, madam, 286 is outgoing.
It says incoming.
Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then you have a couple of incoming. But on the 6th, I want you to point to where I've checked this off, please, and let her look at it.
All the highlighted
Just
ones.
look.
Okay.
I'm not talking highlighted. Look at where I made the check marks.
That was in the afternoon. He was still home, or he was still. He hadn't moved out yet. That was in the afternoon.
Why would she call me? if I
The
was
next
still
day.
home?
It's the next day when he started harassing me.
Listen to me. What? Hey, give me this. Give it back to me.
Incoming, 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 incoming.
Miss
These are all
Holtz,
incoming.
Miss Holtz, you don't want me to think you're a nut, do you?
No, ma'am.
On the 6th, according to you.
That night.
I'm speaking. You called him at a time when you said he wasn't out working, because you said he doesn't work on Sundays. So clearly, you called him at that cell phone number, 216, 252, and 252.
Yes, he went to the grocery store.
So what you called 3 times for?
He called me, and I called him back on several occasions.
So we went to the grocery store for whom?
For all of us. We all had to eat.
So he was out on family business.
Yes, before we got in a fight. Yes, ma'am, he was.
After I finished working.
Just a second. Okay. Then the next phone call on the 7th of January was a phone call from you to him at 8:09 p.m. and he called you back at 8:29. You called him first. Then you called him at 9:10 p.m., 6:59 a.m., 7:30 a.m.
He wouldn't return my call to get my key back, Your Honor.
Please.
And I have the text messages right here of all the incoming text messages.
Okay,
in
Miss Holtz,
one
I'm going
day.
to listen to me, madam. You got to get over it. Get over it.
It's okay to call somebody the B word and the C word?
Get over it. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Did your mother ever teach you that? You have to get over it. It's finished. You may be angry. You may be angry that you devoted 10 months of your time to him. He may not have said nice things to you. I mean, you can tell.
I've had 24 calls since the 9th on here.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm looking at your phone records.
I don't have them.
You called him first.
To get my key back and my mailbox key back.
Change the lock. What? Go ahead.
I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. You've done a nice job of clearing up the harassment. First of all, I don't understand her suing me for ever how much she sued me for, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy. I could understand that, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
Mr. Parrish.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish, listen to me. Not necessary, sir.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
Not necessary.
Okay.
She may be stressed. She's a single mother.
She's a good mother.
She's a single mother, takes care of the kids. Money, I'm sure, is tight. I'm sure it was much more comfortable when you were there.
I understand.
Much less stressful financially when you were there. You're not there anymore. A life she anticipated is over. But I don't think that you're responsible for any rent when you weren't living there. I think that you took care of more than your fair share of the bills when you lived there in a family that was really not yours. You left. The responsibility is hers. She was angry. And these phone records do not support harassment on your part, sir. I mean, common sense dictates that if you left, you would have been just as happy to be left alone. Period. But very hard when you are stressed to deal with that kind of change. I get it. But you're not entitled to any money, madam. The case is dismissed. That's
Your
all.
Honor.
That's all.
21-year-old Dana Anthony is suing her former live-in boyfriend, Ryan Anderson, for his share of 2 months' rent and for half of a lease termination fee.
Miss Anthony, the defendant was your boyfriend. You signed a 1-year lease on an apartment with him. He moved out prior to the termination of the lease. You want him to be responsible for certain fees and rent.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson says that you made it impossible for him to live there, and that's why he moved out. Is this the new boyfriend?
Yes.
Stand up. I have a few questions for you. Last name is?
Talbert.
Mr. Talbert, when did you meet Miss Anthony?
First week of December, maybe a day before.
And at that time, Miss Anthony, you and Mr. Anderson were sharing the apartment together.
Yes.
But you had already terminated your relationship.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Talbert, during the month of December 2008, how many nights did Miss Anthony spend in your home?
Roughly 10 to 12 of those nights in my home.
Thank you. You can be seated.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And this is Mr. Anderson's defense to moving out early and not paying you. See, he said that you had a 1-bedroom apartment and you elected to take the bedroom when you separated.
I took the bedroom because I purchased all the furniture in the apartment, and when we broke up, we made an agreement that he would stay in the living room and I would get the bedroom. I said, anytime I'm not there, feel free to stay in the bedroom. I'm not there. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Mr. Anderson says that he did just that. He didn't tell me that that was an agreement that you had. Was that an agreement?
Yes, sir. Or ma'am.
But did move into the bedroom. And when you came home and found him in the bedroom, you put a lock on the bedroom door.
He did not move into the bedroom. He was never in there.
Then, Mr. Anderson, your defense to this action is that she made it impossible for you to live there, which is why you moved out on December 31st. Tell me how she made it impossible for you to live there.
Well, obviously, since we were no longer together, I was just basically when I was home trying to keep to myself, just kind of stay out of her way, leave her alone. And she was constantly flaunting, you know, that she had moved on, that she was with somebody else. You know, I obviously had no way of knowing if she was, but that's what was being said to me. There was an agreement about the bedroom. I did use it a few times, but it was a little weird, you know, still with her stuff being in there, but it was a room and her cats weren't in there, so I used it. And then I came home one day and I looked down and there had been a deadbolt installed on the bedroom door. And the only reason I had access to any clothes or anything for the weekend was because I had left a load of clothes in the dryer. Everything I owned aside from a load of clothes and my computer was in the bedroom.
Why did you put a deadbolt?
It was not a deadbolt.
What was it?
It was a regular lock, like
Why?
a bathroom door lock.
Why?
Because he was getting threatening, because he was jealous and he was insecure that I was out having fun and he was stuck at home. And he was groom.
Just a second. Miss Anthony, how did it make any difference if you put a plain old lock on the bedroom door? You weren't sleeping there anyway, most of the time. So why would you put a lock on the bedroom door? Why?
Because he kept getting threatening and asking me and questioning me about where I go, what I'm doing, and when it's none of his business.
But what difference does it make, Miss Anthony?
Because he kept pushing the fact that he wanted the bedroom, and that if I had the bedroom, I should pay more. But then he wouldn't want to pay more if he had the bedroom.
All right. Miss Anthony, I agree with him. By putting a lock on the bedroom door, you effectively, constructively evicted him from part of his home. And you can't do that. And if that's what you did, you have to take care of the rent yourself. And I mean, it may have been uncomfortable and was probably a very good idea that one of you left. But the fact that you precipitated it by changing the rules and putting a lock on the bedroom door when you in fact said to him, you can use it whenever you want to, whenever I'm not home. And according to Mr. Talbot, you spent the last half of the month of December at his home. So there was really no reason why Mr. Anderson couldn't use the bedroom and had to be relegated to the living room. And you changed the rules. You pay the rent.
Obviously, it didn't stay locked.
Case is dismissed.
Urban McDaniel is suing her daughter, Glenda Julius, for the cost of her granddaughter's funeral. Glenda says her mother is heartless.
Ms. McDaniel, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is really a simple one. And your complaint is that you made 2 loans to your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And she has not paid you back. Your daughter says that these were not loans, they were really gifts. But the matter becomes more complicated because of the nature of the loans that you claim to your daughter. Miss Julius, you had a daughter who was murdered.
Yes, ma'am.
When was she murdered?
September 24th. She was found dead in her room.
In your home?
In our home.
Has the perpetrator of that murder ever been found?
There are 3 people apprehended as of right now for first-degree murder.
How old was your daughter? According to you, Miss McDaniel, you went to where your daughter was living, and your daughter did not have money for burial.
That's right.
You agreed to loan her the money for the burial.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequently, your daughter, who was not happy staying in the same house where her daughter was murdered, which is quite understandable because people had not been apprehended at that time, asked if she could relocate, and you agreed to loan her some money.
Yes, ma'am.
So that she could relocate. What was the extent of those 2 sums of money? The funeral was how much?
$4,582.27.
And how much did you advance your daughter to relocate?
$1,487.68.
The matter becomes more complicated because at some point, Miss Julius, you ascertained that there was a crime victim's compensation that you could apply for.
The DA.
The DA?
From Carroll County.
Told you what?
Told me that there was a victims fund relief.
And what was it for?
It was for expenses for Jessica's death. And I have been making payments.
Just a second. Expenses for Jessica's death?
Yes.
Which included her burial?
Which my mother gave as a gift.
Listen to me very carefully.
Which included, yes.
So the state of Tennessee had a fund which provided for the survivors of victims of violent crime to give them money so that they could pay for burial?
Yes.
And other related expenses?
Yes.
You applied for that?
Yes.
And you got a check?
Yes.
How much was the check?
One was $5,300 and the other one was $1,024.
Can I see the paperwork surrounding those 2 checks, please?
There was a few gas expenses.
Can I see the paperwork for the...
This is exactly what
Bert, I'll take a look.
But I have more different, I have receipts to where I have been paying my mother.
Just a second. They pay you $5,307.27 for the funeral. And then there are other related expenses, moving expenses. Are you telling me that you have proof that you gave some of this money to your mother?
Yes, I have.
I'd like to see it, please.
I have receipts. Here, this is it, for money orders. She told me that her payments were $70 and $40. I talked to my sister Gail that's standing next to her over the telephone. She was in California. I talked to her, and she said, have you been giving her money? I said, yeah. She told me $70 and $40 on her credit cards. And that's exactly, I've been giving her a little bit more.
Well, I see what you're talking about. You gave her $30, $40.
And it started on 11/3, excuse me.
I understand that, but these are very small amounts of money. When did you get the check from the state?
In April. She told me it was on credit cards, and as long as I was helping her out There was no lump sum that I was supposed to give her. She knew I would have to go home. I have a headstone to purchase for my daughter, which is $910, and I'm working at a minimum wage job. I moved out because it was so unbearable to live with her in her house.
Let's go back a second. You got this money, which is about $6,500. What did you do with it?
I've been living on it, and also I have money set aside to buy Jessica's stone and money set aside to go home.
Well,
because
so
I cannot live.
Just a second. You just told me that the stone is $900.
$910.
Fine. And did you order it?
I've already talked to...
Yes. Don't play with this. Did you pay for it?
Not as of yet.
Why not?
Because she started this lawsuit.
What's the name of the company that's going to do the stone?
Memorial Gardens.
Well, you certainly have $900 for the stone because you had got $6,500. And my problem with you, Miss Julius, is because this is not a very difficult case. Whether your mother said to you, as you allege in your answer, it's the least I can do to give you the money for the funeral, right? That's what she alleges you said to her, or not. The good people of the state of Tennessee did not provide this money for you to live on. The good people of the state of Tennessee wanted to ensure that your daughter had an appropriate burial. So you cannot take their money and do what you want with it. You have to take their money and pay for her funeral. That's what it was earmarked for by the state. Because whether you and your mother, according to you, you colluded to defraud the state by her signing papers that said she's going to pay me back, and she really didn't mean that you were going to pay her back, that's a fraud on the state. I can't sanction that. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm working in a dry cleaners. I'm having trouble dealing with the public.
What kind of work did you do before your daughter's death?
I was working in a convenience store, third shift.
Your mother paid for the funeral. According to the claim that you put into the criminal injuries compensation claim for Jessica Dawn Julius, the funeral was $5,307.27. That's what you told the state, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the funeral was actually $45.82?
The difference was donations from the school where Jessica went.
What?
I have a paper that states each and every one that gave donation to funeral.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. The family that Jessica was, Lisa Stevens' family, were there and willing, and the whole town was willing to help out with this. My mother is the one that wanted me to move. I left everything I owned.
Listen to me. I'm not talking about the moving. I'm talking about the fact that you cannot take this money and live on it. I have to make a judgment whether the person who actually paid for the funeral, and that's your mother, or you who did not pay for the funeral, are the rightful recipients of this money from the state, which is earmarked for your daughter's burial expenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And there were some very nice people from the town who also sent checks in for the funeral. But that's not the issue. The issue really is a very simple one. Whether your mother, at the time that your daughter died, and I believe that she probably did, say to you, this is a terrible time. I don't want you to worry about the funeral. I'll take care of it. Because that's what a parent does. But then when you found out that there was a possibility, because you said that the district attorney told you that there was a fund, that was after your daughter was buried, correct?
Yes.
So after your mother laid out that money, and probably would not have sought to recoup it because you have limited circumstances, that'd be a fair statement. But after she found out that you were going to get this money from the state for the funeral, the right thing for you to do was to give it back to her.
I've been giving her close to $1,500.
No. That may have been fine, Miss Julius, giving her $30, giving her $70, until you got $6,500. Once you got $6,500, you had to say, Mom, clean up the credit card, pay it off, because that's what this check was supposed to be used for. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Let's not pursue this any further. Your family has had sufficient amount of sadness to last for a lifetime. So you have the money, and even if your mother is awarded the $5,000, you still have money left over for the headstone, and then some. Right? Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Victoria Nunez says former friend Philip Mitchell owes for breaking an apartment lease. Philip says He's being made to look like the bad guy.
Please.
This known as Mr. Mitchell is your boyfriend's brother. I don't know if he's still your boyfriend.
No.
Okay, but you and the boyfriend had an apartment. You decided to relocate. Mr. Mitchell was looking for a place to live. He didn't have very good credit. He has a wife?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. And children?
One son.
With the girlfriend?
Mm-hmm.
Not married. Any particular reason why, sir?
Just hasn't happened yet.
Didn't think about it?
We've thought about it, but
Not ready to make that sort of a commitment.
not really that. Just haven't done it yet.
Anyway, they needed a place to live. And you thought it might be a nice idea if you let them move into your apartment. They moved into your apartment. Your name, however, remained on the lease. It is your claim that after they moved out, because of things that they did, you were required to pay the landlord a certain amount of money. Mr. Mitchell says that it's your fault, all of these things, so you pay. When did you move into the apartment?
I initially signed the lease in November of 2005.
And when did you move out of the apartment?
In April of 2006.
Was it a one-year lease?
It was a one-year lease, yes.
So he had until October of 06. Is that right?
Well, November. Technically, the lease ended November 30th of 2006.
When did you move into the apartment, Mr. Mitchell?
In April of 2006.
And what was the rent?
Was $800 a month plus utilities.
And you were diligent in paying your rent each and every month?
Yep.
When did you move out?
We moved out the end of November.
Did you pay November's rent?
Yes.
What rent does he owe?
Well, because they didn't give us 60 days notice to the apartment complex, then they were required to pay an additional month's worth of rent.
Was that in the lease?
Yes, it was stated in the lease.
Did you give him the lease?
I did give him the lease, and I have a copy here showing that he initialed when he signed on to the lease, showing that he did see that in fact...
I'd like to see it.
Okay. And I have a copy of his application to be signed on to the lease, and his initials next to where it says 60 days must be given to move out of the apartment.
Okay. So it is clear that you both understood that you had to give 60 days notice.
Yeah.
And your name remained on the lease.
Yes.
And it is Mr. Mitchell's position is that he gave the landlord 60 days written notice. So now, Mr. Mitchell, will you show me your written 60-day notice to the landlord?
Yeah, I gave 30 days notice, and I was going to work with them to pay off the last month's rent, but I do have a copy of that.
Well, so you didn't give 60-day notice.
No, not 60. I gave a 30-day notice.
But you had to give him 60 days notice.
And I had talked to them about that I didn't have 60 days, and they said that they would work with me on paying off the rest of the money.
First of all, you can't modify a written contract by an oral agreement. A written contract can only be modified by a written contract, sir. So you did not give them 60 days notice, and you were living there.
No, I did not.
So you owe the month's rent.
Well,
am I missing something?
I went into the leasing office and I said that I don't have 60 days, and they said, how long do you have? And I said, I can give you 30 days.
That's hearsay, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
So you owe the month's rent, and how much is a month's rent?
It was $800 plus an extra $150 for being outside of the lease.
Is that what you had to pay?
Well, I have it listed as $850,
Oh,
which is
perfect. So you see, $850. And what about the utilities?
The utilities that they owed were $500 at the move out. About that here.
Did you owe any utilities when you moved out, sir?
Not that they had told me. I'd been paying the utilities every single month.
Well, take a look at the utilities. How much does it say the utilities were when you moved out?
But part of this in here is the rent, too, like late rent. So it wasn't a total of the $500 for just the utilities.
Well, were you late in your rent?
No. Well, except for that last month, yes. So
well, the
yeah.
last month wouldn't account for $500, sir.
Yeah, and I don't understand how it's listed.
I don't either. What is it?
There's a breakdown of everything. It's a gas reimbursement, late fees, rent, trash reimbursement, utility charges, water, sewer reimbursement, and the total for all of those combined.
Do you see that?
Yeah,
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
So is that what you owed?
Yes.
Is my question. Wouldn't that have been easier for you to say immediately?
Yeah.
What was that amount?
The amount is about $500. I just rounded up, Judge. It was $495. So
don't round it out.
Okay.
I have a machine here. It helps me. So far, we have $1345. Now, what about the cleaning fees for the apartment?
The cleaning fees are listed here as well. There's different damages, cleaning, trash out, rent through the 60 days.
You already told me about trash. How much trash was there?
Apparently there was a lot because they're getting charged to get it.
Just a second. Mr. Mitchell, Did you and your girlfriend do a walkthrough with the landlord when you left?
Not with the landlord, no.
With whom?
We didn't do it with anyone. We cleaned the apartment out. There was some trash, but it's listed here. It's only $5 worth of taking trash out. And so there were a few bags
Why
of
didn't
trash.
you walk through the apartment with either the manager or the landlord?
They didn't tell me that I had to do that.
Did you take photographs when you left?
Mm-mm.
But why should she have to deal with any of this stuff?
They also had to replace the carpets, and the carpets were damaged when we moved in. And I asked Vicky if the deposit that she left would cover the carpets, and she said yes. And she had like 8-month-old Great Dane puppy living in the apartments that completely trashed the carpets.
Is that right?
I take responsibility for the carpets. However, Judge, the carpet cleaning fee was only $50.
You said that they had to replace all the carpets.
I have the invoice of them having to replace the carpets.
You mean they cleaned it before they replaced it? They're very neat people. What date did you move out?
November 30th.
This was in January of 2007.
That's when they replaced the carpets. That was the invoice from the carpet company that they gave the apartments.
No. Where did you get this from?
The apartments. I went into the leasing office and talked to her about what I needed, and she said that this showed that they had completely replaced the carpets.
But you weren't charged for that.
No.
No. So
I don't have a copy of any of that.
No, she doesn't have a copy of that. Yes, you can take this and you can give it back to this lady. I don't know what she was hoping to get from that. So far, you owe $1,345. What were the rest of the fees?
They didn't return the key cards, and there's other damages here to different things in the apartment complex.
Did you return the key cards?
No, I do take responsibility for that.
Listen, Mr. Mitchell, sounds to me like you have to grow up a little bit. Mr. Mitchell, you didn't do all the things you were supposed to do. You didn't give 60 days notice. You didn't finish cleaning up the apartment.
I did clean the apartment.
No, you said to me you left some trash there. And there was some things. Did you have a young child in the apartment?
Yes.
So there was some damage in the apartment that I'm sure is ascribed to you and not her 8-month-old Great Bear statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there are a lot of things that you didn't do. She shouldn't have to be responsible for that. And she lost a $150 deposit. She's not even asking you for that, which she should have gotten back. Can I see that paperwork, please? Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Mitchell?
Just that when I had
Before I
spoken...
pronounce sentence upon you.
I had spoken to the leasing office about the notice, and they had said, since it's not 60 days, we can...
Listen to me. That's hearsay.
I have a copy of when I said I was going to move out, signed by the apartments.
Does it say signed and approved, no penalty?
No.
Fine. Okay. Now, I want to see your check.
Okay. The check is from my older sister's account, and it's right here, and there's a payment of receipt.
I'd like
and
to see
also
it,
the
please.
statement from the account being paid.
When did they contact you?
They contacted me on April 10th, so 4 months after they had moved out and I thought everything was taken care of, I found out that I had 2 days to come up with approximately $2,000. And if I didn't pay it, they threatened that they were going to take us to court, there were going to be more fees added, and I didn't want to ruin my credit because I have really good credit. I've always paid everything on time.
Gotcha. Okay. Where did you move to, Mr. Mitchell?
My aunt had a house that she rented to us.
So why couldn't you give them 60 days notice?
Because we needed to move into that house to get it. Because we needed a bigger house. We needed something with more rooms.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mitchell. You said I couldn't give them 60 days notice, which means you were going to the military, somebody was having surgery, but you go into your aunt's house, so you move in a month later to your aunt's house.
We couldn't afford the last month's rent as well. And that's what I had told the
You're
lease
fast talking, babe. You're a fast talker. Fast talker. Fortunately for me, I'm a faster thinker. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,865.01.